And now for our feature presentation.
Welcome to the Untitled Movie Show for Wednesday, February 11th, 2015. I'm your host, Miguel Leon, and with me is Boy Wonder, Michael Burhan.
Holy manholes, Batman! Because it's a holy...
But I'm not alone. We also have the clown queen of crime, Anina Kasky.
Hi, puddings.
And last but not least, returning to the Untitled Movie Show, the clown prince himself, Dave Wade.
Like the jacket, it keeps me safe when I'm jogging at night.
No, it's the wrong line. You should have said you ever danced with the devil by the pale moonlight.
No, I just prefer Jim Carrey's like the jacket, and I want that jacket. I'm not gonna lie.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Untitled Movie Show for a special Wednesday night edition. Taking it old school. We haven't done a Wednesday night episode in a while, but with my new schedule from work, I've had to move the show back to Wednesday nights. Maybe permanent, maybe temporary, maybe permanent. Who knows? We'll have to see what the future holds. But if you hadn't noticed by the voice I've been putting on tonight...
I could be back.
I would too. It's great to have you back, by the way, Dave. I just want to point that out. You know, it's Nina, we would love to keep having you on. You know, it's not like we're saying, you know, now that Dave's back, you know, we're giving you the boot. We would love to have you on. The more the merrier.
Nina, your pick slip's coming tomorrow. I mean, we'd love to have you back on.
Dave.
No.
God damn it, Dave.
I mean, like, basically, it'll be a sausage fest in here. Is that what you're saying, Dave?
Yeah. Yeah, and also, you know, life kicks it in and does stuff, and, you know, I'm very happy, Miguel, that you've got a proper job that you deserve at last. So if I have to disappear, I have to disappear. But Anita, because I listened to all the shows when I was not on them, I cried slowly into my pillow. But you're awesome, so stick around.
I do regret not being able to do.
I'm like Alan Sugar. Stick around, otherwise I might have to fire you.
I do regret not doing the Zack Snyder retrospective with you, because I would have loved to have heard your thoughts on stuff like Watchmen and Sucker Punch. But yeah,
you know what? Though, when I was listening to that, I was actually speaking out loud. I was pretending I was in it, and just going, no, you missed this. What about this? What about this? Oh, what about this?
Well, I'm sure I missed a lot, considering I only got.
Fan? Are you a big Zack
Why am I
Snyder
waving
fan?
my hands around? No one can see me.
Jazz hands.
Are you a big fan of Zack Snyder there, Dave Wade?
I'm not, but he's done movies that I absolutely love and adore. It's like a kind of Marmite relationship. I don't like him, but I love some of his work beyond what should be recognizable as human love.
Yeah, you know too much of it is not good for you. You just can't help but indulge.
Well, I heard that if you watch too much Zack, you go blind.
Yeah, that's the reason why Superman Man of Steel was terrible. Just saying.
Let's not get into that. Trust me, I think we've
Yeah,
got
we
another
did a
decent
whole
chapter to
episode
talk
about
about. Yeah,
Move past
because if you hadn't noticed by the voice that I put on, tonight's the first part of a two-part series we're going to be doing. We're going to be discussing Batman. We're going to be discussing all 8 of his theatrical releases, including one animated feature that I really want to get into later on in the show. But yeah, we're going to be... What was that?
I'm Birdman. Sorry, I told you I'll work it in there.
Oh, we'll get into that, trust me, in a bit, but I just wanted to kind of segue into that because, yeah, we're going to be discussing all of the Batman theatrical runs, including, like I said, the 7 live-action ones and the 1 animated feature. But I'm going to throw it out there to you guys. Burhan, we'll start with you. When you think Batman, what's your go-to movie?
For me, I think it would be, in order to show how amazing Batman is, would be the original Batman of Michael Keaton. Just because, as you said, with that quote, "Hey kid, have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight?" One of my favorite ones.
Yeah, I actually just finished watching Keaton's Batman for the first time in a couple of years. It had been a while, and I really wanted to...
For the first time in a couple of years, or for the first time? Because if it's for the first time ever, shame on you.
I think I had seen it years ago on cable. And we'll get into that in a little bit, but you don't see many TV channels showing Batman. It's usually the sequel that gets the most TV time. But it had been a long time since I had seen it, so I really wanted to go back and rewatch it to see how it still holds up. But yeah, Dave, throw it over to you. What's your go-to Batman movie?
Keaton, Batman 1, brilliant, love it. And my favourite line in it is, "I have the mind maketh the moogie." Just think it's absolutely a fantastic movie. And I saw it in the cinema on day one. And it was the first movie in this country to have the 12 certificate that they introduced, that they borrowed from the States. So they had this thing in between PG and, 15. And yeah, I think, Batman was the first movie to have that certificate. And it was a big deal. And I remember the hype on TV about it. And I was so psyched and everything. And I went there. And true story, I hated it in the cinema. And it's only after many subsequent views on, afterwards in VHS and now in DVD and Blu-ray that I adore that movie. I adore it so much.
I get where you're coming from with this, and I'll talk about that when I go into my opinions on the Batman movie. Anina, are you going to go triple threat on this one? Or are you going to say Batman, the first one?
Well, I love that film, but actually, I think I personally prefer Batman Returns just because it has Penguin in it, and I have a massive place in my heart for Penguin.
Oh, I thought you said you have a massive erection for Penguin. I was like, hey, Nina, this is a family show.
Only in your head, Berhad. Only in your
My
head.
name is Oswald Cobblepot. I love
Hey,
the
man,
movie.
somebody
I thought
Penguin.
massive pig, but because penguins are cool.
Hey, Miguel's going to say something.
are
Are you going to
cool.
compliment me on my penguin, Miguel?
Yes, I was going to say, Danny DeVito is a very attractive man in that movie.
He is.
I can understand that.
He made me want to go
Not that
like...
kind of. Everything has to be sexual with you guys.
It does. because-
You know what? All right, let's
I
pull
want
back
to
on that
save
one
him.
then.
That's what I want to do. I want to hug him and go, it's okay, it's okay, because he's so lonely and sad.
It's Mac.
Yeah,
We'll
but
We'll get into
Angry.
Batman Returns when we'll get into Batman Returns when we get into, because there's a lot to talk about that one. For me, if I had to pick a go-to, and I really do love this movie to death because I grew
Batman
up
and
watching
Robin,
it.
isn't it? Batman and Robin.
Not bad. I got
Oh my
things to
God.
say about Batman and Robin, but we'll get into that when we get into part 2 in about a week or two. But no, for me, the go-to Batman movie is Mask of the Phantasm. I grew up watching that movie so much. It's probably the earliest memory I have of Batman. I remember seeing Batman Returns around it when it first came out, but the movie that I really grew up with was Mask of the Phantasm, and I think it's a brilliant movie, and I'll
that
get
is an
more into
amazing
exactly.
Batman animated series movie.
When we get to it, we can discuss, because I'm a massive comic book whore, as you all are as well, the fact that they borrowed heavily from Batman Year One in that movie.
Yeah, they did.
Definitely, yeah. But yeah, let's get into it then with 1989's Batman, directed by Tim Burton. This was his first. I don't want to say first because he did do the Pee Wee Herman movie before that, but this was an
Wasn't it
interesting choice.
Wait.
It-
I didn't know that. He did the
What?
Pee
He
Wee
did
Herman movie?
Beetlejuice before, surely.
No,
Didn't he do
Beetlejuice
Beetlejuice?
was done afterwards.
Oh.
No, Beetlejuice was 88. Beetlejuice was 88, so
Okay.
this was right after Beetlejuice. But yeah, he had done Beetlejuice before this, and he had done Pee-wee's Big Adventure before that.
Oh my god,
This was
I
one
didn't
of
know that. I'm a little bit disappointed with him now. Even though I love that movie, but I'm a little bit disappointed because he made a movie about a bloke who likes to crank one out in the cinema. But I did not know that.
This was way before then, and it was his first movie. We all got to start somewhere. But yeah, there was a lot writing on this movie. This ostensibly, I would probably say, is one of the first. In fact, honestly, on a mainstream level, I would say this is the first true comic book movie. And what I mean is, unlike Superman, this movie was really portrayed as a comic book movie, as opposed to Superman, which was just kind of a movie that happens to be based on a comic book. After Superman and before Batman, you really didn't see many adaptations of comic book movies on the big screen, with the exception being those few direct-to-video Marvel movies that Canon Films did, like The Punisher. This
Captain America.
This was Well, Captain America was, I think, after, and that went to direct-to-video. They ran out of money. They couldn't get it onto the big screen. But yeah, this was a huge undertaking. This came out right after the Dark Knight Rises kind of brought Batman back to prevalence, after he had kind of, fallen out of favor with most fans with the
I know that
Adam
when
West
Warner
series.
Bros. wrote the check for it, when Warner Brothers wrote the check for its budget, they were basically shitting their pants, going with, who's this director? And did we really grant him this much money? And they pretty much gave him free reign for it.
No, they didn't.
And they
Not
were
for
shitting their
Batman.
pants.
No, I'm
Not
sure
for
they
Batman.
didn't.
Batman actually, they had a bit of a leash on Tim Burton, comparatively to Returns, which we'll get into in a little bit.
I get confused.
I'll leave my thoughts
Stones,
on. We'll get into that. I'm gonna keep my thoughts on Batman on the Batman '89 for last. I'll throw it over to you guys. I know you started getting into it, Burhan. What's your thoughts on '89's Batman as a film?
It basically redefined the way that we saw Batman, because before that, we used to see him as like a very campy, very different type of character with Adam West. You had like you had the fact that you had this ambiguous gay relationship between Batman and Robin. And the whole sort of like 60s disco kind of theme they had going on, and kooky characters, very comic booky, and you had the narrator of, can Batman save Robin in 10 seconds? Find out next week as the show continues.
Why is Robin's lunchbox
exactly
so big?
And it was more aimed at kids. It was much more aimed at kids than TV series.
But now it's it changed. It redefined the character. So the comic books changed with it. It turned Batman into more dark, more gritty. And from someone who directed Pee-wee's Playhouse to redefine the way that we saw the Bat in general was amazing. And I loved the kind of the way that they set up the origin story in this was done so well that you could see stuff like Spider-Man should have taken a page out of it, in a sense. Now the fact that the character's returned to the Marvel Universe.
We'll talk more about that next week.
We'll talk more about it in the news show, yeah. But the fact is, seeing like the way it kind of alluded to his past, but you never saw it. All you saw is the guy picked up the gun, shot his folks, and then it just goes straight back into like Bruce having his visions. Keaton was redefined as well as an actor, because most people didn't feel that he would be Batman, that he could be Batman, because he was very different in kinds of context.
Well,
he was small, he was stocky.
The big reason why that was the case, I believe, was right before this he had just done Mr. Mom.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like you're going from doing Mr. Mom to being Batman. I mean, this was
yeah, this is a badass vigilante
who
was the greatest babysitter in the world.
It's one of those things where I've heard people talk about this. Even proto-internet, you had people doing petitions trying to keep Michael Keaton from attaining the role. But yeah, like you said, he really does a good job with it. You can keep going. I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, but it's kind of like how it wasn't just the expectations of Burton as a director, the expectations of the character changed, and the expectations of Keaton changed. He became a box office star from this film and this film alone. And it's something that it was a double-edged sword. It kind of built him up, but it also destroyed his career in one swoop, because no one saw past it.
Yeah. He had a career for a very long time at this point, and was established, did this movie, and then was typecast.
Yeah.
But he's back. He's back now, as we've seen with Birdman, which we talked about extensively in the Oscar episode. Let's throw it over to you, Dave Wade. What's your thoughts on '89's Batman?
Fucking love and adore it. I think it's an absolutely wonderful. Like I said, it's weird that I didn't like it at the time, but in retrospect, watching it many, many, many times since, I think it's the best depiction of Batman on screen. And my favorite thing about it was Keaton was so well cast. And I remember what you touched upon, which is I remember the backlash against, but he's just a small, skinny bloke. And I remember watching a documentary or a mini documentary segment on like British morning breakfast TV at the time, and Burton was trying to explain to them, because they said, "Oh, cookie choice that you went with Keaton," and he actually said, "The point that I'm trying to make is the reason he has body armor is he's not Arnold Schwarzenegger. We don't want Arnold Schwarzenegger in the suit. We want a tormented man." And I love that idea. I absolutely love it. And my favorite thing about that movie is it's the best depiction of Bruce Wayne as well, which is Bruce Wayne is this confused, blundering idiot, and it's not like what other superheroes do, like Clark Kent, to blur people into having look, this is my my everyday life. It really is. You could just see, at least to me, I see Keaton's Bruce Wayne in that movie as he's just a confused, blundering idiot, for the sense that he's only comfortable as Batman. That's his main person, and Bruce Wayne is just the person he has to put up with outside of being Batman.
I completely agree with you.
He's absolutely wonderful in that movie, and plus it has one of my favourite scenes in the movie ever. After he bangs Vicky Vale, and sorry, I made that sound really cheap.
So was she, but I'm sure.
Yeah, it cuts to that scene where he's hanging upside down from that, the little workout bench thing, swinging with his arms across his chest like a bat, and that's just wonderful cinematography right there. It's just absolutely fantastic. Plus, it still has the greatest Batmobile ever, period.
Agreed. Yeah, I
and
completely
two boring
agree.
random facts. Simon Bisley, who, the comic book artist, Simon Bisley actually owns one of the Warner Brothers Batmobiles and has it outfitted with lights and all the stuff that makes it road legal, and uses it as his everyday car now and then. How awesome is that? He was forced to take he was forced to take the jet out the back because if you were behind him at the traffic lights, you wouldn't want the front of your Prius to be melted. Although I think that's what all Priuses deserve, but yeah, and I just thought that's fucking amazing. Can you imagine driving up to McDonald's and then the roof of your car goes and you go, "Yeah, I'll have an egg sandwich, please." They give you McDonald's and it goes, "Oh, sexy biscuits."
Yeah, I adore that version of the Batmobile in comparison to the other ones, and trust me, we'll get into that when we get into Batman Forever, because my God, that to me is just. We'll get into it, but
can I just add a line that Patty just PM'd me, which is, "We all forgot this amazing line," which is probably one of the defining lines of the movie, which is what Nicholson says, which is, "Never rub another man's rhubarb."
Yeah, or the fun line where he comes at the beginning, where he basically reveals himself, and the guy goes, "Who are you?" It's like, "I'm Batman. Tell your friends."
Oh, I mean, that's the money shot right there.
Yeah.
That's the money shot.
And he holds him off the roof as well.
Yeah.
"I want you to do me a favour. I want you to tell your
Is
friends
anyone
about me."
going to mention the pure brilliance that is Jack Nicholson in this film?
That's the
We'll
thing.
get into that, because I want to specify.
Honestly.
We can hint on it, but I really want to talk about the casting once I get the round table swung back to me. But yeah, Anina, what's your thoughts on the movie itself, '89's Batman?
Great film. Like I said, I prefer the second one, just because the second one I just prefer the feel of it, and it has characters that I have more of a connection to, and I love the Joker, and it is a really, really good film. Like I said, I grew up watching the animated series, and that's what got me into Batman. And then this film came out, and I watched that because I never read the comics. Like I've said before, and I got gameplay. I wasn't really into comics unless you count Sandman. So I don't, how I knew, the whole origin story and everything I learned from watching the animated series and then watching the different films. So I might not know the background to the T like some people do, but I do know I can tell a good Batman film, and this is definitely one of them.
And see, I I think I kind of side with older Dave in this one, and I mean older as in his previous version, whereas I just finished watching it, and I don't hate the movie. I think the movie is good. I think because of the fact that I grew up with the other Batman movies, it's hard for me to have that kind of hindsight, and to me, a lot of elements kind of just stand out to me in a negative. Honestly, if I would have to describe the movie's tone is goofy at times. There are some things that just kind of just don't work for me. Mostly stuff like a lot of the on the nose cinematography, like the scene with the bat where he's hanging from that machine. That scene where he's flying in the bat plane and he swoops up into the sky and it forms the bat symbol across the moon. There's just a few scenes that are just so on the nose and just silly at times that it does kind of clash with me.
But Miguel,
I
think
will
about this
say,
though. It is comic books. Like comic books are always in your face. Comic books are always silly. They have those moments. You can't sit there and say that it's not a serious movie because it's not. It's a comic book movie. It's kind
I
of
get
has
that,
a different tone.
and as I was going to say, I think it's the best version of Batman that we were going to get at that time, because we were not going to get the comic book version of Batman at the time. I mean, this is just coming off of Dark Knight Returns and The Killing Joke. You were not going to get
I
that
still prefer this
universe
to
of
all the modern
Batman.
Batman movies, by the way. When you say that, I think that's a bit harsh because I still think this is better. It's got the best depiction of Gotham. In fact, wasn't it the biggest set ever made at the time after Cleopatra? It was like
I
a
believe
quarter
so.
mile long set.
Yeah, I believe.
And
I mean, I'm not disrespecting the movie. I just
that
there's a
doesn't
lot
do
of
it
it
for
that
you.
just comes off. Yeah, I mean, I can't. I'm so used to a certain kind of Batman that to go back to seeing that, I can't get excited about it as I did. I mean, I didn't grow up with it, so I can't really say that it's my Batman or put it on that pedestal that a lot of people do. I like the movie. I think the
Well, as the
performances are
oldest
great.
person in this street, I have to say, you weren't there at the beginning, mate. You don't understand what a big deal this was when it came out, and the hype
Oh no, no,
actually
no.
for once made it amazing
I
when you
under
went to see it. Oh, and we all skipped
No,
over
I
this.
understand
The
whole.
amazing opening scene where you thought you were going through a tunnel, and then the camera pulls out, and it's like a clay rendition or stone rendition of the bat sign.
Yeah.
Sexy.
Yeah, I did like that a lot. But yeah, I understand wholeheartedly because, like I said, going back, this was one of the first, if not the first, big comic book movie. The hype around this movie, I'd probably compare it in a modern sense to the hype surrounding the Avengers movie when that was starting to build up.
Yeah.
I'd probably put
Yeah.
it in that regard. This was a
I do
huge
Well,
remember
movie because, like I
that
said, it
all
was,
the other studios openly admitted after this movie came out that they were playing catch up and shitting their pants about how to kind of do a direct sort of response with a superhero.
oh
They
yeah,
just
you
went
saw a
like,
lot of that. A lot of movies after that really cribbing off of elements from '89's Batman with stuff like the Shadow. I wouldn't say kind of sort of Darkman, the Phantom, a lot of the independent comic book movies that came out, The Rocketeer, stuff like that.
and definitely this. Well, I know it's a different. It was already established, even though it was underground comic, but definitely some of the atmosphere from The Crow uh, was clearly inspired by Burton's Batman.
To a degree,
that's one of the
I
reasons
think.
I love Burton's Batman is that whole 90s gothic look. I love that. I love the atmosphere. I love the aesthetics,
Yeah.
and I
Is it
don't
modern?
think
Is it not modern? Is it modern? Is it not modern?
yeah, I love that sort of ambiguity. And I was talking about this the other day. 90s gothic is my thing. Like Interview
I
with the
agree.
Vampire, Crow, Tim Burton's Batman, anything, give me sort of classy vampires, none of this sparkly thing or Nosferatu stuff.
I wanna live
Classy
in a city where all the
vampires
buildings
with
are
velvet,
painted
and I'm
black.
in. Yeah, and that with like Sisters of Mercy in the background, and I'm happy as Larry. And I
you
really,
just said
really
something
miss
that I
that.
have to have a rebuttal for, and that's this:
Yeah.
sparkle, sparkle, sparkle.
Go back to your phone call there, Burhan. All right. I will say one element of the movie that I was not a big fan of, and it pains me to say this because I do love the artist. I like the Batman movie. I love Prince. You put those two together, and with the exception of the Party Man song, none of the songs on Prince's soundtrack work with the movie. I'm sorry, it really does date the film for me, especially when with that scene where they start playing Trust during the parade, and even Party Man to an extent. I mean, Party Man's an okay Prince song. I would nowhere near put it in the likes of stuff like Little Red Corvette or Kiss, but it just does not work for me. However, I love Danny Elfman's score for this movie. That to me has been the soundtrack for Batman. I mean, everybody who
Yeah.
knows Batman knows his soundtrack. I mean, it
Well-
really did define that. It really
And
defined
they
Batman.
carried
honestly.
it over, didn't they? They carried it over to the original Batman animated series where they decided to make it dark in kind of 50s looking.
Oh, I love the animated series so much.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I grew up with that one as well. And
Yeah,
yeah, they
thank
did
you.
kind of to an extent, even to an extent when Schumacher took over, they borrowed elements from it. Danny Elfman didn't do any of the soundtracks for his movies, but you can tell they were kind of borrowing from that. But yeah, that initial chord when the movie first starts is the soundtrack to Batman. It's what you think of. It's something that I really wish had been carried over into the Nolan movies, but we'll get into that when we get into our second part later in the month.
I
But
don't think
you
it would have
mentioned casting.
worked.
I do agree with that. It really is very distinct to a certain look, which, like I said, we'll get to. But you mentioned casting. I do think that the big strength of this movie is in the casting of its characters. But
And they
looking
broke
at
the
who
mold.
they had in, what was
Because
that?
if you look at the casting, they broke the mold. If you look at the casting for this movie on paper, some stupid little suit at the top of Warner Brothers, you just go like, so you want bloke from Mr. Mom is our vigilante, and you want, even though he was a massively established actor and in gold in Hollywood, like, and you want Jack Nicholson is the Joker. Like on paper, I can imagine it was a nightmare for people, in Warner Brothers, just going like, really. You want them? This is, why did I write a check for this?
I disagree.
On
I
paper.
think Jack Nicholson has that. He's a sinister quality about him. No matter what he does.
What I'm
he
saying
seems
is, on
sinister.
paper at the time, based on everything that preceded it and the comic books, he wasn't the Joker. He's my favorite Joker. Don't get me wrong, he's my favorite Joker. But I can understand to people in Warner Brothers when they were giving the list of Burton gave and said, these are the people I want. They would just go like, really,
Well,
really.
it's
Well,
funny.
I guess
It's
they
funny
went
you
the more
mentioned that.
sinister route. They went sinister, whereas usually the Joker's been more. He's a villain, but he's been more cartoony. So
You
yeah, I
mentioned
do
actually.
see the point.
It's funny you mentioned that Burton was the one that came up with the idea to cast these people. Not really, actually. For instance, you mentioned the Joker. Jack Nicholson was not Tim Burton's choice. He actually wanted Brad Dourif in the role. He had wanted to cast Brad Dourif in the role. For those of you who don't know, Brad Dourif's done a lot of work. His biggest claim to fame is he's the voice of Chucky in Child's Play.
And
but
he's
yeah,
he's in Lord of the Rings as well. He's
He was?
what's the he was, yeah, he was one of the small characters. I'm sure he was.
Let
Oh,
me
you mean a
check. I've got
Hobbit? Sorry,
Dourif's,
bad joke.
Ha 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 ha.
Let's see. Let me scroll up to 2001.
I'm sure he
Um,
is. I'm sure he is.
Grima.
I think
His
Yeah,
name
there we
is
go.
in the movie is Grima Wormtongue.
yeah, he's
Oh!
when they're in Rohan. Riders of Rohan.
Yeah, I mean,
Wormtongue is. Oh, he's a really. Actually, I would kind of. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love Nicholson, but I would have kind of liked to live in an alternative universe where I could see him as Joker, purely based upon how creepy. Because that's what I think about Joker. He is Grima Wormtongue. That's an interesting.
Yeah, the one I always think too is the one I. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just saying it could have worked with Brad Dourif. Really could have.
Yeah, well, Dourif. Oh, okay, go ahead.
No, I'm just thinking because and I think Brad Dourif, if he'd been the Joker, maybe he would have become more of a well-known name as well. Because if you mention Brad Dourif, most people won't know who he is.
Mm-hmm.
If you say he's the voice of Chucky, people go, "Oh, okay," but they will have no idea what he looks like.
So he's the bloke
Yeah,
from the movie we tried to ban in the UK because of child murders. That's how they would remember him, at least over here.
Oh yeah, I do remember hearing about that. But
That's
yeah,
an
he's. I
interesting
think back.
thought.
Yeah.
Just an interesting thought because if you think of Jack Nicholson, you think of One Who Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. You think of oh God, I'm so sleep
The
deprived.
only movie that makes me cry, and I cry a lot, but that's the only movie that makes me cry at the end.
Yeah, One Who Flew and the Kubrick one. I'm gonna shoot myself tomorrow because I'm so sleep deprived. I can't remember the name of this iconic film. Stephen King one.
Shining.
Oh, so there we go. Thank you. The Shining, and then you think of Joker.
Yeah.
You know, if Brad Dourif had done a good Joker, he could be in that category. And I just think that's a very interesting thought. He could be one of these iconic pop culture icons.
I wonder if it keeps him up at night because he knows this now that Batman's been out for years, and he just goes, "What? Wait, I was your first choice? Oh, fuck."
I know.
That's not fair.
Yeah,
I think
he was
that
the one
too.
that said
They're like,
no.
God damn it.
Well, there's one actor that regrets dropping out of Batman, but we'll get to him in a second. But yeah, I'm looking at the list of people who were asked to play the Joker, and there's one that sticks out to me that I think would have been great for it. But I'll leave him for last. But some of the names that actually were in line that wanted to, Robin Williams had wanted to play the Joker. He pitched hard for the role. He wanted desperately to play the Joker, and apparently the studios just did not want him to play the role. I could see him playing the role. At that point,
he could have been phenomenal. I think he could have been phenomenal.
I'm taking my
But I
DeLorean,
think
I'm
he's
going
too
back in time, and I'm fixing the time stream right now.
I think, yeah, I can see studios going, yeah, but you're cuddly. We don't want to destroy everyone's childhood by making someone who's cuddly.
We don't want an
scary.
evil Mork.
Exactly.
yeah, but I think I would have loved to have seen him. James Woods was considered at one point to play the Joker. John Lithgow.
This list
at
is
one
amazing
point.
because all these people would have made good Jokers. James Wood would have made an amazing Joker.
Yeah, David Bowie was
David
up for
Bowie
the role
wouldn't
at
have
one
made
point.
amazing Joker because they would have to do what they did in Labyrinth and give him a massive codpiece that would just make everyone stare at his balls instead of his back costume.
He's amazing in Labyrinth. I'm sorry, I love
Oh,
him.
yeah.
He's got trousers that basically just say, "Look at the size of my slong. You know you're jealous. Every man on the planet." Yes, we are, Bowie, because that's not humanly possible.
His dick became a running gag between my classroom and when we saw Labyrinth in school one year. It just became a running joke for like a good few weeks. But yeah,
that entire film is sexually inappropriate. What he says to Sarah is incredibly sexually inappropriate. Yeah, I love that film, and I saw it when I was 7.
He's grooming her.
Yes, but he was my first crush when I was 7. It was David Bowie in Labyrinth.
I can see it. I could definitely see that. But yeah, here are the two ones that stick out to me.
Again, I don't think I wouldn't. I love David Bowie, but I wouldn't give him Joker. I wouldn't give him Joker, even though I loved him. No.
All right, one at a time. Dave, you were going to say something? You were going to go off on another tangent real quick?
Tangent, which is my mum, God bless my mum, because she's got 3 boys, and she was brilliant to us in the summer holidays, and she took us to see Labyrinth, and it wasn't until years later that she actually said to us, "Well, I'm very glad you enjoyed that movie, but I can't help but think that the size of his penis was inappropriate for children." True story.
But yeah, in terms of the two big ones that I think would have been interesting, and one of them I'm actually sad that we didn't get because this guy has never worked with Tim Burton, and I'm amazed he hasn't. Tim Curry was up for the role at one point. I would have loved to have seen him work with Tim Burton because for two guys who would have been perfect to work with each other, they've never done a movie with each other, and to me, I feel that's some type of like universal crime.
I've got to say, now that you say that, I did not know that. That would have been brilliant. He would have been perfect. He would be more like Cesar Romero, you know, like he would have been the perfect quality of camp, evil, you know. Because let's be honest, Jack Nicholson just played it as funny Joker, psychotic,
Yeah.
but Tim Curry would have just been. He would have been a throwback, even though it's not based on the comics. It's more on the '60s TV show, but he would have been a throwback to that, and it would have been brilliant. It would have been absolutely fantastic. Oh my God,
Yeah.
where's my Rocky Horror Picture Show fucking Batman?
Yeah, and probably the most famous one, and I say this because I think his villain in Raimi's Spider-Man pulls this out and says he could have done it. Willem Dafoe. I think Dafoe, having seen him play the Green Goblin, would have been perfect as the Joker because he's basically playing that same character in Raimi's Spider-Man.
He's played that
I
same
would
character
wanna
every time he
see-
plays a bad guy in any movie he's ever done. Let's be honest.
Yeah, he
He
does
seems
kind of
too
play Willem
serious
Dafoe.
for me. I think Willem Dafoe is always very even and very serious.
Plus, he lives under
Have
Stewie's
you?
bed.
Did you see? Wait a minute. Have you seen him in Speed 2 and Raimi's Spider-Man? He's insane in those two movies.
I've seen him. I've seen Speed 2, unfortunately. But yes,
Yeah.
there's some sort of really even if he's unhinged, he's, I don't know, physically so even. You know, I
He's
can't
got a
explain it.
face.
He's not. I don't think
Oh,
he's. You don't get that feeling that he might do anything anytime. Whereas
Now,
I
with
that I
those
think
eyes,
is
are you kidding me?
really. I don't know.
I hate
It's hard to
I hate to
explain.
go after you like this, Anina, but we're talking about Willem Dafoe here. I mean, Dave, you can back me up. You've seen the man's eyes.
Yeah.
You've seen him
Yeah,
in those
he's
movies.
Yeah,
I mean,
like
those-
a brick shit house.
yeah, that is
I
true.
know. I don't know. To me, it's like he could. I can't explain it, but yeah, I know what you mean. He does have crazy eyes.
Hmm.
He's got presence, is what Miguel's trying to say, I think. He's got...
He does
He-
have
he
loads
even-
of presence, but I think his presence is, in a way, maybe even a bit much for the Joker. In a way,
But then
I
you
don't
could
know.
argue that would be the same reason that people don't like Jack Nicholson, which is... Really, Jack Nicholson for the Joker? He's too well established in his
Yeah.
presence. His on-screen sort of... you know what, right? When I get my fucking TARDIS working and I can cross the multiverse, I'm gonna watch the Batman with every single one of these is Joker, and then I'm gonna do a retrospective of it. But no one will believe me because they won't think the technology exists to do so.
That
It's really
That
so
would
funny
be
that
interesting.
that's a
is
joke.
we're speculating. The beauty of this is we're speculating. I
Yeah.
can't see
That's a-
Willem Dafoe in my head being Joker. He could be even the best Joker.
They wouldn't
but
even
I
need
just
to put
can't-
prosthetics on his mouth. He's got a mouth made to be Joker.
True, he does have the wide mouth.
somebody
And then
Photoshop
he could
all
even
this,
say
please.
he could halfway say through the movie, by the way, I was in that really dodgy porn movie with Madonna. And then laugh.
Oh yeah, body of evidence. Hey, well, you know, I can't even front. I did during my formative awkward years. I do remember watching clips of that movie, so I can't really front. But yeah,
I remember watching,
I think that,
thinking the horny teenager.
All I see in my head now is Antichrist, because he was in Antichrist, and you said porn.
oh, I
film. All
avoid that movie.
Tip: don't
Let's
go
not talk
see
about
it with a
Antichrist.
platonic. Yeah, don't go see it with a platonic friend of the opposite gender, because it becomes weird. Even though it's never
Yeah.
been weird between you two. It becomes suddenly
Yeah,
weird.
I'll say
Don't
this.
even
This
go
would be
watch movies like that with your girlfriend. I just find it weird watching a movie that has sexual content with the bird that you're banging because you're just like, I'm in a cinema. Should I be horny? I can. There's other people around, but that's the entire movie. And I love you. Oh, this is creepy. Hold me. No, don't hold me because it's creepy. Sorry.
all right. Let's go on to the other
I'm
bit
a
of
very
casting. 'Cause I was
tormented
gonna-
person.
Let's go on to the next
though, Miguel. Quickly,
Dave,
of all the
Dave.
movies, listing every one of those people who could have been Joker, how many times can you say that every single one of them you actually stop and think and ooh and ah about the movie that you love and then go, every one of them would have been a credible Joker based upon their back catalogue that I would have loved to have seen.
Well, we can say that we can see if that holds up with the Batman side because yeah, Michael Keaton inevitably got the role, but there were a bunch of other actors that actually were up for it, including one actor I mentioned before who actually regrets it, which the studio had had really wanted to cast Ray Liotta. Apparently, Burton wanted to cast Liotta in the role, but Liotta turned it down. He says it's the biggest mistake he's ever made in his career. I don't know if I could picture Ray Liotta as Batman. I like Ray Liotta, but he does certain movies that he's good in certain films. He's not so good in others. I just can't see him doing Burton's Batman. I just can't.
I can't.
I can't either.
Entirely.
I can't see it. My
Basing this on
imagination doesn't
Goodfellas,
stretch.
I just think he would be too nasty. Even though he's Batman, he would be too nasty.
Yeah, he's.
Yeah.
You need to be ambiguous, I think, as Batman, but he would just be, not a nice man.
Yeah, I mean Ray Liotta. I mean he's let's just say Goodfellas. He wasn't acting. That's just Ray Liotta. You know. But yeah, how would you have felt if possibly it went to Pierce Brosnan, who was up for the role after Liotta turned it down? The studios wanted Brosnan in the Batman role.
Really? Brosnan was up for the role?
Well, I can see
Brosnan was
why.
up for the role. He
because-
turned it down. He turned it down because he didn't feel there was much of a future in comic book movies. He just didn't like the idea of him being a superhero, so he turned it down.
Bastard Brosnan.
Well,
You know what?
Brosnan is-
He did get the Bond license after that, so he didn't lose out completely.
Wasn't he tied to
Well,
Remington
Brosnan
Steele
is-
at this point, though?
Yeah, he was still doing Remington Steele at this point. Go ahead,
I
Anita.
think
You would have been
Brosnan
too
is-
nice.
He's no.
Go ahead,
I think,
Anita. Dave, let him go.
I think I understand their how they're thinking. They're thinking Bruce Wayne, the most handsome, eligible bachelor in Gotham, and I think looks-wise, perfect casting for Bond. Because and you know the aura of Bond. I can see he would have been a great Bruce Wayne. This is the difficulty in casting Batman, because you have to be Bruce Wayne and Batman. That's always the difficult part. You have to sort of be two characters in one. So you have to be, obviously, Burton went a slightly different route, but Bruce Wayne, eligible bachelor, rich, suave, all that. Then you have to be, you know, vigilante, crime fighter as well. Brosnan is perfect for the suave businessman who every woman wants. He is perfect for that. And maybe they thought, we can work on Batman as we go along, but as Bruce Wayne, if we were seeing the Bruce Wayne film, perfect.
It would be a
cast.
Bond movie, let's be honest. If
Yeah,
was
it would be
Bruce
a
Wayne
Bond
movie.
film. Yeah. But I think
Can he do an American accent? I don't even know. I've never heard Pierce Brosnan do an American
He's ever
accent.
done a movie where he does.
I have seen him. He's done an American accent. It's decent.
Okay.
The only thing I would say about him was, if he was, and I agree with Anina, which is he'd be a brilliant Bruce Wayne, with one exception, which is he'd be too good at being competent, because Bruce Wayne should be always ever so slightly confused and tormented. But as a Batman, I don't know, this is just my thoughts upon Pierce. He'd be too bloody polite, or something like, I'm Batman. Well, what are you going to do, Batman? I'm gonna make you a cup of tea and you're gonna fuck off. I just can't see him as. I agree with you. I can see him as Bruce Wayne. I just cannot see him as Batman. Just even though I know he would have a suit and everything like that, and you'd only see the bottom of his face.
There's a lot of actors who are good at either being Batman or Bruce Wayne, but doing both at the same time is really hard, because you have to have opposing sort of characteristics.
Which comes back to our original comment, which is that's why Keaton was perfect.
Well, there's one actor here on the list that blew my mind, but given the original direction they wanted to go with the movie, I can kind of see where they were going, because originally in the earlier drafts of the movie was actually more campy, more comedic, more so like the Adam West Batman. This was before they had signed Burton on. Do you know who they initially wanted to play Batman in that role?
So someone can.
I'll take that side. Bill Murray. Yes, Warner Brothers wanted to cast Bill Murray in the role of Batman. This was back when the movie was still much more campier, much more in tune with the Adam West Batman. So I could see that regard. There's a universe out there where Bill Murray's Batman, and I don't know how to feel about that.
It
I'd like to
wouldn't
see
be. You couldn't have Tim Burton anywhere near it.
No.
I think they can't be in the. Bill Murray and Burton in the same film. No, but it could be brilliant. It could be the campest thing we've ever seen, but it could be brilliant in its campness. But
It would
not
be
directed
like
by Tim Burton.
They could remake the original '60s Batman movie with him, and then it's a pocket within itself in the Batman universe.
Yeah, I don't see it. I mean, like I said, I can't picture, Bill Murray with the Tim Burton, Batman design. Maybe in like a fabric suit like the one on the Adam West version. Sure, I could probably see Bill Murray in that role, but no, that would not have worked. Which I'm glad it didn't, and they decided to go in the direction they did. But yeah, other actors.
He doesn't really brood. Bill Murray brooding is inherently funny. If you've seen Broken Flowers, he broods the entire film. That's really funny. So
yeah, I mean,
you can't have honest brooding from him. It's just too funny.
Yeah, like I said, if you picture Adam West Batman, I could see Bill Murray doing that, but not the Batman that they were hoping. Other actors they had in line for the role, Mel Gibson was up for the role at one point. He turned it down.
That would have worked. I could have seen that.
Now all I can see is
an anti-Semitic, homophobic twat, right?
All I can
this was early on.
Batman screaming, "They can never take our freedom." That's what's looping in my head now.
I don't know.
This
hope
was
he
right around the
based
time
on when he
where
got done for DUI, which is there'll be a brilliant line in the movie where he confronts the Joker and just goes, "What's up, sugar tits?"
Yeah, I'm trying to see what filmography.
Said when he got pulled over for DUI in Hollywood.
Yeah,
I'd rather give Mel Gibson a villain role than Batman.
At that point, no, because keep in mind this was '89. At this point, he had just done the Mad Max movies, and I think Lethal Weapon 2 actually came out that same summer.
Yeah,
so up until that point, he was
Riggs, isn't he? This movie, he's Mad Max, he's Riggs, he did Tequila Sunrise. He's the quintessential Hollywood poster boy for being heroic man. I could totally see him as Batman.
Yeah, I mean, this could have been the role that actually matured him before he did stuff like Braveheart and all these other movies. This could have been that role that really. This was, I think, the year before Hamlet too. So I think he could have done it.
I hate Shakespeare, but I really enjoy his Hamlet.
I did too. I saw it in college. I really did like it. But yeah, Mel Gibson was up for the role. Kevin Costner was up for the role.
Oh,
no,
that wouldn't have worked.
Not even
a post-apocalyptic version of Batman living as a postman in the future where the world's flooded with water or some bollocks.
I can't picture him being the hero in a comic book movie, and thanks to Man of Steel, I can't picture him being the father in a comic book movie either.
He doesn't have the presence. I think about everyone else you just mentioned, they have screen presence. I'm not saying he's a bad actor. He's done movies I love. But you can say Mel Gibson, when he goes into angry, gruff, I'm a macho man moment, he has presence. Yeah. Ray Liotta definitely has presence. Too much, as in the sense that, like, you're Batman. Are you going to kill me? But Kevin Costner would just be like, all right, I'm Batman.
Kevin Costner's leading man, but he's not. Yeah, I agree. He doesn't really have that oomph in presence.
Yeah. Another casting choice at the time was Charlie Sheen. They wanted Charlie Sheen in the role. Too young.
No, that would be brilliant. Because he could just, before he beats people up, he could just go, I got tiger blood, bitches. Sorry. I could.
I really wouldn't have wanted to see Charlie Sheen as Batman.
Because you got to remember, back in 1989, Charlie Sheen was still a credible, established actor who hadn't actually gone, no pun intended, batshit crazy. I could
still
actually really see. Charlie Sheen. Just think Platoon. Think Platoon. Good actor. Good actor. Good actor. I could have seen.
But
Oh my god! I'm going back
He
to the
was a good
multiverse.
actor,
I
have
wanna-
but
that
I think
duality. He doesn't have the. I still can't see him being both Bruce Wayne and Batman.
yeah,
can't
at
see
that
him
point,
being
I don't
both.
think he had the I don't think he had the maturity enough at that point. Yeah, he was great in Platoon, but his character was a very young character. Same thing with Wall Street. I think for a role
what
like
is
Batman,
Batman's
especially Bruce.
recognized age? Or Bruce Wayne's?
Um,
If we're gonna look at actors, I always picture him as like kind of like 38, 40.
yeah, I would say yeah. You need a much
Oh my
older
god, I
mind to
could be
use.
Batman.
There you go.
Work on that. Work on that. Put it up there on the list with your trans-dimensional warp belt idea, so you can go see these other
Start doing
versions of
They
Batman.
crunches.
they tie in together, by the way, because if I get that working, then I can fix everything, including my weak, skinny, pale
And you
body.
need to find Liam Neeson to train you.
Liam Neeson
Ben-
as Batman. Sorry. Would have
Oh,
worked.
I could buy
Would've
that.
worked.
Definitely, definitely. I don't know though. I don't know if he can do an American accent.
He can do anything. He's fucking Liam Neeson.
Well, he's done enough
Yeah,
Taken
he
films.
fights
That's
with his-
supposed to be an
have you
American
seen-
accent.
Why not he fights wolves with his bare hands and wins?
One
still
last
haven't
actor on
seen
the
that
list.
film.
His daughter 3 times. Sorry.
One last actor on the list before they got to Michael Keaton was Tom Selleck. No, I don't think I could have seen Selleck. I know Selleck's been up for a lot of different roles. I know famously he was up for the role as Indiana Jones, but I don't see him as Batman.
I don't.
Not
mainly
as
because
Batman.
I'm pretty sure
Maybe as
he would
Indiana
pick up his
Jones.
mustache.
Yeah, that mustache, he would have had to have taken it off, and him without a
I
mustache
know.
is just
They
weird.
would have to cut a hole in the cowl for him.
I do
He
want
would
to
have
point out a couple
push-through
other.
hole in his cowl.
I do want to point out a couple secondary casting choices. One that actually really, to this day, surprises me is Billy D. Williams' Harvey Dent, which, from what I've heard, he only agreed to take the role if it guaranteed him he would play Two-Face, because he really wanted to play Two-Face. He was a big fan, and so he made them put a thing in his contract saying that he'll take the role if he
he
is
got him to write
guaranteed.
clause into his contract. Wow. I really
Yeah,
like
they
him in that
ended up
movie, though. I know he's got a really small role and everything, and he's a comic book fan. I do remember watching it as a kid, and then when he comes out, it's Harvey Dent. First of all, my brain just went, "Yay, it's Lando!" And second of all, I went, even though it hadn't happened yet, welcome to the cool side of the pillow, Peter. But I just remember thinking, "You're Two-Face, you're Two-Face," and then obviously we never got to see him any further than that. But I would have loved to have seen him as Two-Face. I really would.
I do too, and it's funny that they didn't go with that choice because God, can you imagine? The type of fan anger that would have produced? It's not like we go through that now, where if you change the race of a comic book character, the fans go insane.
But
Anyway,
at the time, though, knowing that he was going to be, or he was that character, it went under the radar. If that was, like you said, if that was now, changing the race of a character, people would have gone batshit crazy. No pun intended. I just like that phrase. But back then, when it was just like, maybe it's because he was just the character that wasn't going to turn into Two-Face yet, but everyone just went, yeah, hey, he's the bloke from Star Wars. He's in this movie. No one batted an eyelid. No one cared. In the sense that, like you said now, Miguel, which is if someone said like, hey, I'm going to make Two-Face black, everyone would go like, how dare you, I'm not racist, but this character has been running since the fucking 30s and he should be this color and this bloke because the only time we're allowed to be racist is in comics. And yeah, that's a really good point, actually.
yeah. One last bit of casting that almost happened that I want to point out is in earlier versions of the first movie, they actually did have a subplot with Robin involved. He obviously wouldn't make his appearance until Batman Forever, but there was at one point casting for the character of
Michael
Robin.
J. Fox,
and
wasn't it?
No, Kiefer Sutherland was up for the role,
Oh.
but because a
Ooh.
young Kiefer Sutherland would have been Robin, but since they excised his character, he was taken out of the movie.
Too sinister.
Back then?
Yeah, he Lost Boys. He's got sinister eyes.
Previously on Batman.
He's got sinister eyes. No, I don't think you can have a hint of
He's English,
sinister
by the way.
in you if
He's
you're
English. He's English. He's English.
Robin.
I fight this to the death
He
with
is
people who say
English?
like, "Give Sutherland." Yeah, he was born in, and he was on Top Gear last week, and it was hilarious because Jeremy Clarkson introduced him as our favourite Englishman who lives in America, who is Canadian. Yeah, he was born in London.
Yeah,
up in
I knew
Canada.
this.
And then moved to LA.
I
He's one of our, yeah, Miguel, he's one of
know-
ours. Back off.
Interesting.
Someone I know is friends with Kiefer Sutherland's mom, who's British.
Oh,
Weird,
can you
but
ask
yeah.
her to get me his autograph? Can you ask her if I send her all of my 24 box sets, will he sign every single one?
Yeah, I don't think it would have worked. Like I said, I like Kiefer Sutherland, but yeah, I don't know what kind of Robin they wanted, but I don't think Kiefer would have been right
It
for
would have
that
been a
role.
psychotic Robin. He would have been more badass than Batman.
Yeah, he probably.
that's
Honestly,
what
I
I
would not have
think.
mind seeing him as Batman.
I can just see Batman going, right, boy wonder, right, chill. Oh, you broke his arm. No. Why are you interrogating him? No. Oh, seriously, boy wonder, what are you doing? We're not unionized. You're gonna get in shit for this. And Jim Johnner just says, back off in a Batman voice, and Batman just goes, all right.
Oh,
chill,
can you
chill,
imagine
I'm
Kiefer
good."
Sutherland delivering "I'm Batman"? I could. That would win me over.
I can see
In
it.
fact,
Yeah.
Anina, ask
I
your
can
friend to
definitely-
ask Keith Sutherland to say, I'm Batman, and do a video clip that we can put on the Untitled Movie Show.
I could see Kiefer Sutherland now playing Batman if they ever wanted to do if they ever wanted to cast him in the role. I could see him playing that role now. Almost like he would be perfect for like the Dark Knight Returns Batman, the vicious, just take no prisoners Batman from that version of the comic book.
Very
I could see him
limited
playing that
vocabulary,
Batman.
but whatever
I
he
agree.
says is just chilling to the bone. And you got to remember his voice as well. He could just walk into a store and order a coffee, and you shit your pants and think he was about to punch you in the face. I'd like a mochaccino. Oh, don't hit me, Kiefer. Please don't hit me. And why is your
So,
name
yeah,
German
Batman-
or English and raised in Canada? I've never got that. Sorry.
But yeah, Batman was a massive success. I mean, it made tons of money and really kickstarted the whole comic book vibe moving forward. So
Yeah,
you knew.
we talked about this in a previous cast, and I have to say this, that I've always been completely blown away by and surprised that, and don't get me wrong, I love this movie more, but I'm quite surprised that Last Crusade made more money than Batman. I did not know
Did
that.
it?
I honestly... Yeah, well, you told me that fact.
No, I remember Last Crusade came out the same year. I don't believe it made more money. Let me pull this up because I'm going to have to fact check this, as we do for this show. Let's see. $48 million budget on Batman, made $411 million. Let's see, where's Last Crusade? Okay.
Wait, 48 million? That was his budget?
Yeah.
Why was
Yeah,
Warner
it went
Brothers
up
shitting
from
their pants about
30
writing a check?
It was 35
that's nothing.
first, and then it went up for 48.
Keep in mind, yeah, this was back in the days where people didn't spend that much money on comic book movies.
Yeah, it was
I mean,
almost 30 years
know,
ago,
you-
isn't it? So
Exactly.
Yeah, it was
Inflation. That's a
1989.
lot of money back then. Losing it.
Yeah. Oh my God, you're actually right there, David. $48 million. $48 million.
Don't call me
Dave,
David. Only
sorry.
my mother's allowed to call me David. And second of all, go back through the previous episodes. You told me this fact.
I must have, because I completely forgot I did. Yeah, Last Crusade, $48 million budget, made $474 million. So yeah, it did outperform.
I'm really surprised because I just remember everyone at the time, and I was surprised when you told me the first time. Sorry, I wasn't taking the piss out of you, Miguel. I'm just saying you told me this fact because I was blown away the first time you told me it, because I'm thinking, even though I love Last Crusade and I prefer it as a movie, I'm thinking, hang on, the movie everyone talked about, raved about, and all the TV channels promoted and said, this is the greatest blockbuster in the world, was Batman. Last Crusade never got a look in, yet it beat it.
Yeah, I would have to think most of that went to the cast, because I know there was a lot of. Well, not to that. I'm saying in terms of Batman, because I know one of the things they mentioned here in this article is that Nicholson asked for a ton of money to do the role of the Joker. He actually, I believe in.
Didn't he? He invented that clause in your contract where he will be permanently paid a certain amount of money to subsidize his wages out of every 1989 Batman product.
Yeah,
Do you remember
He
his
also
contract.
had power over shooting schedules. He could say, "I'm shooting this in this time."
I'm sorry, Nina. I think you mean schedules, as after all, we are
Schedule,
English. Sorry.
It's
Yeah,
2 in the morning.
basically-
Give me a break.
you know, that's kind of one of the reasons where I almost feel like they probably would have done better having a guy like a Brad Dourif play the Joker, because Nicholson was great in the role, but I gotta think he demanded a ton of money for that role. I mean,
He
according to
approached
this,
it
it
as
says he demanded.
the consummate businessman, didn't he? Whereas someone else would have just approached it with passion.
Yeah,
But he was
basically
fantastic. I forgive him
Yeah.
because he's iconic in.
supposedly he
as
demanded
Joker.
$6 million for the role, which is huge up front. I mean, that's huge for any actor, even back
In
then. And I believe
89?
he acted. Yeah,
I mean, I know we have
1989.
wages now. What was the standard wage for people who were massively established back then? It wasn't $6 million a movie. That's fucking insane.
Yeah, let me go through the inflation chart. What 6 million would be attributed to today? Let's see. Money.
He basically walked
At
into Tim
least
Burton's
10.
office
At
and
least
said, "I'm
10.
Jesus who wants me to cure them and touch my hand or robe."
Let's see. Enter the
That's
amount of
scary.
money. 6. Let's see. 6 million initial year. 1989 final year. 2014.
What's
Since they
you
don't have
lovely people
2015.
talking about?
Inflation. Let's see. I think I might have done it wrong. Let's see. Because we were talking about how Jack Nicholson demanded $6 million for his role in Batman. So we're trying to see what $6 million today would equal in 2014 money. Let's see. 6 million in 1989 would cost 11 million in 2014. So okay, relatively small by today's standards. I mean, for most actors, that's on par if you're playing the villain, I suppose. I mean, I remember the big controversy over Bruce Willis, demanding $4 million for essentially 15 minutes of screen time for Expendables 3.
Wait, Jack Nicholson wanted 6 minutes of screen time in Expendables 3?
What was that?
Oh my god, Expendables 4 should have Jack Nicholson. Sorry.
So basically, Jack
Burhead,
Nicholson demanded $6 million for Batman.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
upfront.
demanded $6 million for Batman, which by today's
is why they
standards would be
cut
about
that deal,
12
wasn't
million.
it? Yeah, that's why they
Which
cut
was
that
huge,
deal,
like I
which
said.
is you can have a percentage of the profits of everything. Like, what was it? You can have 4% of the profits of any Batman-related merchandise.
I believe so. I
And then
believe in total,
then he opened a can of worms, and everyone who's shrewd does that now.
Yeah, I believe in total, according to the wiki article, it says that his take from that clause is somewhere between $60 million and $90 million. So he cleaned up house.
Every time that movie is screened on cable or Sky Movies or anything like that, he still takes a cut from it. Do you know that?
I gotta think that's probably why they don't screen it as much, because like I said, compared to the sequel, which we're going to get to in a second, I don't see many channels really showing the first one. It's kind of, like I said, you have a better chance of stumbling across Batman Returns than you do the original one on TV, which, let's get into that.
Yeah.
I know, Burhead, you
keeping
were gone
Nicholson out, aren't they?
Yeah, you've been gone for like an hour and a half, dude.
Sorry,
I do apologize for that. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just basically I had an emergency call I had to take. I do apologise on that, peeps. So yeah.
But yeah, we just spent the last hour talking about alternate casting for the Joker and Batman, and just the different kind of people who were up for those roles, and we were kind of debating who would be the best one and whatnot. I think we topped out at Bill Murray as Batman at one point.
Yeah,
So
Bill Murray as the Joker would have been great. I would have loved to see that.
But yeah, like I said, at one point Bill Murray was originally going to be Batman, but this was back when the movie was still going to be much more campier, much more. in line with
Well,
the Adam
cool it.
West
But
version.
before we end this segment, cool. Who you would like to be Batman out of that?
What
Alternative.
in that year, in that
conception.
period,
I would say James Woods for me.
in that period.
Oh no, we're talking about the we're talking about the Joker out of the list, because I think the list they had that I mentioned was James Woods was up for the role.
Yeah, Jim
Brad
Carrey
Dourif.
wasn't around. He wasn't relevant then, was he?
No, Brad Dourif was Tim Burton's choice, but he refused.
When was Earth Girls Are Easy?
89.
89. So yeah,
I know
that would
we're-
be
Yeah.
that would be Jim Carrey. So I would say Jim Carrey.
Really?
Yeah.
I think he was too young for the role at that point.
Yeah,
Not really.
Not then. Yeah.
You
I
could
agree
you
with
couldn't really
Miguel, not
define the
then.
Joker as an older character anyway, because if you look at him
Well,
currently,
no, they do define it because he's supposed to be older than Batman, because he's
That's
the one
true.
that kills Batman's parents.
But again, prosthetics.
Yeah, he's Jack Napier, isn't he?
Yeah, I would say prosthetics. So I'm going with Jim Carrey.
Well, out of the list we have real quick before we
Okay.
move on to Batman Returns is Brad Dourif was up for the role.
Don't know
Robin
who that
Williams
guy is.
lobbied. Brad Dourif, he plays a lot of bit parts. He's most famous as the voice of Chucky in the Child's Play series.
Ooh,
But yeah,
what about
if
the-
you've seen,
what about the guy from
Yeah.
Back to the Future? Played Marty's dad. What's his name? Crispin Glover.
Crispin Glover,
Crispin Glover.
I don't believe he was up for the role. I know Robin Williams, like I said, lobbied for the role.
That
James
would've
Woods
been
was
good.
up at one point.
Yeah, Robin Williams.
John Lithgow.
Oh,
John
Lithgow.
Lithgow was up
Yes. Yes. I could.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
yes,
John
I can
Lithgow.
see that.
He was fabulous in
Dexter. Yeah. Oh,
wow.
God, I had such an orgasm when watching that. When you see amazing
let's-
acting,
My
acting,
winky still twinkles when I think about his role in that
yeah.
one.
I saw a one-man show with him in the National Theatre. Oh my God. Just
Yeah, people forget he actually can act. Most people remember him as the dad from Third Rock from the Sun. No, he is a really good actor. Go back
Yeah,
and watch his pre Third Rock stuff.
he's got an
good.
amazing resume as well. He did Cliffhanger.
I love
He
Third
just
Rock.
he
He
won
played,
the
like, the
Tony
Russian.
Award recently. He won the Tony Award recently on Broadway for a show. He can act. He is a heavyweight in the acting scale, definitely.
Yeah, he's one of those.
You've only got to look at his performance in Footloose, which is a completely cheese popcorn movie, but he's still really menacing and brilliant in that movie.
The thing is,
And by the way, Third Rock is being repeated every day on Channel 4 at the moment. Two episodes back.
he has this two things where he has the kind of, he can put it up to really loud, or he can go to kind of really small, and it doesn't matter how big or small the role is, he always stands out in comparison. So John Lithgow would have been a perfect Joker. I think he would have made that role his own. So much.
Presence. He's got an amazing presence.
Yeah, very much so.
All right, well let's go on to the next movie, which by the way I do want to point out, you can kind of tell that they didn't have any plans to do a sequel with the fact that they end up killing
One
the
more,
Joker.
by the way, one
You know-
more. Just to
Yeah,
say
and
who
this
could
is
be the
it's
Joker.
kind of set off another chain of events, Miguel, where
Christopher
superhero
Lloyd
movies
could
ended
be
up
the
killing
Joker.
their fucking villains. That
Hold
set
on,
that
one
trend
at a
off.
time. Burhan, go ahead.
This set off that whole superhero movie killing the villain trend that we see a lot in movies now, which bugs me. It bugs me a lot because you could do a lot more with the characters if you keep them alive, and it also took away Batman's whole ethos, which is because he saw his parents die in front of him, he would never take a life. Never.
Well, technically, he doesn't take the life. He ties Joker to the statue, and then as he's trying to escape, the statue breaks and pulls Joker down. So he doesn't technically kill the Joker. He kills that guy in the steeple when he throws him over the out of the window, and all the people he kills when he blows up the factory. But he doesn't kill the Joker.
I guess he's not a forward thinker, is he? When he does his
No,
actions.
he doesn't plan. He really didn't plan that out in hindsight. But
I would
yeah,
never
I
take
get
a
it.
life, but I've got grenades and shit that come out of my car. But as
Yeah,
long as
I
I'm
mean,
not there
it's-
when they blow up, I didn't take a life.
Yeah, I like
Yeah,
it. There's a
ahead.
thing in how it should have ended where the Joker in Batman, the Dark Knight Returns, where he goes out with the bike, and he runs the Joker over, and he goes, "You killed him?" He's like, "No, just broke his bones." And then he's like sitting in the hospital and he goes, "Do you know how I got these scars?" The Batman. Yeah, that's right. The Batman.
Nice. One of the greatest things you can ever do in a pub when you're drunk with your mates, by the way, is try and do who can do the greatest impression of the Joker played by Heath Ledger, which is, "You know, I got these scars." Seriously, trust me, it's the greatest drinking game in the world.
Do you want to see a
And then just
magic
make up-
trick?
Yeah.
Like what?
You know what?
Alright,
On a side note, quick side note, quick side note. You know this whole he'll never take a life. You know what really bugged me in the
What, he's taken
Arkham
any
games?
life?
Arkham games. I like those games. Arkham Asylum, Arkham City. I like them. But I'm sorry, if you beat a guy up like that, he's not just unconscious. He's dead. And I know
Yeah,
you're meant to
exactly.
think, oh, they're just unconscious on the floor. No, he's dead. After you did that to him, he's dead. That
Trust me,
always
if you're annoyed,
He comes
annoyed
back to
me.
the police, and they say to him, which is, hey, Batman, what's going on? I didn't kill him. I just fucked him up a lot. If he dies, sign this. It wasn't me.
I'll say this, and we'll move on to Batman Returns. Is don't read the final issue of Injustice then if you don't like the idea of Batman killing people. I'll just say that.
Well, the final
but
issue
yeah.
of Injustice.
I don't mind
Injustice
him
finished?
killing people.
Injustice hasn't finished yet, has it?
I believe it has. At least the version that I read.
Was
I
that
think
year
it does.
3?
I think.
Is year 3 finished?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I remember reading an issue of
It's going to
Injustice.
continue,
and
but I
it
have
must have
the
been
issue
ending.
where it says basically, well, it rounds it up very nicely.
Let's have a look.
So you
No,
know what I'm talking about then. What he does to the Joker.
Yeah.
Okay, let's not talk about that. I
I'm
won't
not
spoil it for
against.
anybody.
I'm not against him killing people. It's when he say, "Oh no, he never kills anyone." It's that. It's stating a myth or a fact, and then going, "Yeah, they're not dead." And just rams his head into a electric box. He's not dead. That.
I
It's
like
that
to think
bit.
in this politically correct world now, he needs a disclaimer. So every time he jumps in through a window
Exactly.
and he's about to fuck someone, he goes, "I'm Batman. I don't kill anyone."
And he
But
signs a
therefore,
paper
what happens after
afterwards.
this event is out of my hands. And then he reads like 15 disjunctions from the legal code.
I know.
Okay,
And a
let's-
lawyer
let's-
comes
let's
in
get
and
on-
gives a piece of paper.
Let's move in. Let's move into Batman Returns. We've spent 90 minutes now talking about Batman, and we've got 2 more movies we have to go through. So
It's that great,
let's go-
Miguel, that you
That's
have
'cause
to
you
spend
brought
90
me back.
minutes doing
I
it.
do apologize.
That's fine. That's fine. I just really don't want to spend 3 hours on this first half of a huge retrospective. So let's move on to 1992. As I said, Batman made so much money, you knew a sequel was going to come out. Here's the thing. Burton did not want to come back to do the sequel. He has a thing with doing sequels to movies. So
Unless it's
the
Beetlejuice
studio-
Returns.
Yeah, but this is later years, Burton. This was Burton in his prime. He could stand on his morals. So the studios
You
had
should have had Johnny Depp as Batman, sorry.
Dave. Okay. So yeah, the studios basically had to give Burton 100% creative control for him to do Batman Returns, and you can tell. This was the movie that I probably watched the most in terms of the live-action movies. And yeah, we usually have a term we use on the show where a certain director will out-director himself. Certain directors kind of go a little bit overboard when it comes to certain films when they don't have a producer behind him to say no. This was one of the first instances of Burton doing that. To me, this is what you think of when you think of Tim Burton in terms of Batman. Whereas the first one really didn't have much of a Burton feel to it, or at least it had all the good versions. This one tends to go a little bit overboard for my taste. I will admit, I think it's a beautiful movie. I think there's a lot of great set pieces. Burton really does create a city that really is to be marveled in this movie. My biggest problem with this movie is it's very much a villain's showcase. It's not at all a Batman movie. Batman really does not play that big of a role in his own film. This is very much the Penguin and Catwoman movie, and to me that makes the movie. Yeah, and to me that makes the movie a bit unfocused. Like I never feel like I'm watching a concise story. I feel like I'm watching all these different plot threads that happen to kind of sort of, intertwine with each other. The movie feels a bit messy to me. It really is. Go ahead.
What annoys you is what I love best about this film is because we get to know the villains, why they're doing this, why they feel this way, and I think that's the film's strength. Is because these are comic book characters, cartoon villains, but they're not cartoon villains in the film, and I love that. The psychology behind them is what I love about this film. That plus the beautiful aesthetics of the film, the style, the Tim Burton style. This is why I love this film. So, because Batman had his film in the first one. Batman had his time in the first one, so the sequel was more like. I think Burton does misfits well.
He does.
Edward Scissorhands. He knows how to make a misfit and how it's real and tangible. And Penguin is not. What I love about the Penguin is he is not actually. He doesn't kill for the love of killing. He is just so wounded and lonely, and that's the only way he can deal with it is to be the way he is because everyone shunned him, and that's the beauty of it.
Yes,
because,
basically,
we see no sort of
this movie is pay attention and recognize me.
There's no mustache swirling in this, and I love that. Oh. So what annoyed you in this film is exactly what I love about this film.
Dave, you had a thought you wanted to get out?
Yeah, I agree with that, which is, and the irony is, this is my favorite Batman movie when I saw it, and then it went back to the original Batman movie because I actually saw this in Florida. But yeah, I agree with Anna, which is it kind of. It's not even really a Batman movie in a sense. It's kind of, you could almost argue it's what Gotham should have been, if that makes sense. It establishes all these people, and with Oswald Cobblepot, it's like, apart from when the ink comes out his mouth, which is horrible, it's like, I don't actually hate you because life fucked you over, and I don't blame you for having a pop. Although I have to say, even though it's very limited, it has some of my favourite Batman sequences in it ever. And his fight with Catwoman has one of my favourite lines ever. Then you got going back to what Anna said. You have the same thing with Catwoman, where you have that whole elongated establishment story after she's been thrown out the window. She goes back to her house and she's all fucked up, and all the cats comes in and she drinks milk and shit, and then makes the costume, which I heard they had to stitch her into. Yeah, they physically had to stitch her into it. And if you look throughout the movie, you can see. In costume, if you look throughout the movie, you can see the scenes splitting, and you can see like flesh through, on her arms and stuff because it was that tight. But yeah, it was brilliant. It was just like Anna said, it was, and as I said, it should have been Gotham done right. It was a Batman movie in all but name. It should have been called The Villains of Gotham, P.S. Batman Shows Up. But it has my favourite fight scene ever, which is where Batman and Catwoman have that fight, and he just goes, eat floor, high fibre, and then slams her head into the floor.
But you know what I love about it is the fact that it just had all the right characters. It complements it so well. You have Michael Keaton reprising his role as Batman, Michelle Pfeiffer being Catwoman, and she looks super sexy in that outfit. You had the
best Catwoman.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
She's the only one who actually has style and substance. She complements Selena Kyle because she's very witty, but at the same time she seems very tortured.
She's the only Catwoman who actually sounds feline.
Yeah, and that too. And Michelle Pfeiffer really took to the role. Then you have Oswald Cobblepot.
Because wasn't it a promise for a bit? They were actually going to make a Catwoman movie a couple of years after this with her in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then they had
Pfeiffer, have sex with me. Sorry.
They had DeVito as the Penguin, which, as Anina pointed out, he's so good in the role. Danny DeVito is one of those guys. He excels when he's playing a character. And as soon as I knew he was going to be cast as the Penguin, I was like, yeah, I don't get it. When I watched him, the way he waddles, his hands, how disgusting and grotesque he looks, and the fact that he is pure evil as well really helped, and it just worked. It is very immersive as well at the same time. Then you also have Christopher Walken as well as kind of one of the side villains. You know, he's the guy that kind of created Selena Kyle's character. He's pulling the strings from behind with the Penguin, bringing him into kind of being his PR guy. And also, like, he's kind of controlling everything from the background, and he's so good. I mean, so good in terms of the characters that he plays. Everyone complements each other. Everyone works. And it makes it so well, you know. And in terms of the story as well, it has a very nice story, but at times gets overshadowed by the fact that there's so many action sequences in this movie. There's like about 10, 15 different action sequences. But it shows the right way to do a superhero movie, because if you look at like the Spider-Man, the Amazing Spider-Man, and movies like in that kind of same vein, where they oversaturate it with villains, it gives everyone the perfect build. You know, Catwoman has a great build to
at the expense of its hero, though.
Yeah, that is true, but it still has a nice story running in the background for Batman, because you can see how he kind of has this whole worry about Selena, the woman that he's in love with, and he's trying to save her, and they have these beautiful moments where he reveals himself finally, just so he can show her that, you know, he's pretty much like her, a tortured soul. You have this amazing story about his conflict, trying to deal with himself as Bruce Wayne, and not opening himself up to people, because Batman, as Dave so aptly put it, Batman is who he is. You know, Bruce Wayne's just a cover.
At the same time, though, they already explored that in the first movie, so it was that's kind of one of the problems I have with the first movie, is that by going the route they did with Jack Napier and Batman basically getting his revenge for his parents' death, they kind of closed off Batman's character development, to where in this movie there really is nowhere else he can go but just retread the same things. There's nowhere else to go for his character, so he does play second fiddle to it. Mostly A, because Burton, you know, wanted to focus on the villains, and B, because there's nowhere else he can go. They've already closed up that character arc for him.
Not necessarily. There was a way he can go, but it was kind of them trying to find the light within the darkness, in a sense. He's trying to find some substance and normality, but he can't. And that's the great thing about it. It has that nice little story, but the thing is, it's so good that they don't have to dedicate time to it. Do you know what I mean? It plays along, and it complements Selena Kyle's story very easily, and it has a nice build to her, and also even a nice build to the Penguin, who's the kind of the main antagonist here. He's the main villain. Kyle's just kind of she's the anti-hero of the piece, in a sense, trying to struggle between dealing with her new life and her new abilities, as she's has a conflict. She has an internal conflict between who she is and her kind of path as Catwoman. So it really, really helps, and it shows in spades in terms of what they're trying to do with these characters. And I feel that the film itself, you know, watching it back, being someone who owns the box set on Blu-ray as well, and watched this as a kid, I loved it. It was kind of one of the first love stories I've ever watched as well, believe it or not.
It's a pretty twisted love story.
Yeah, but it's so good. You know, it's
yeah, I agree. It's so good. It's the best.
Yeah,
Probably
like I
one of
said,
the best
I don't
love
hate
stories as well, because they don't. It's none of this, you know, romantic comedy.
Yeah, they don't pull any
Fluff.
punches. It's kind of one of those things where
It's more real.
yeah,
it's
I'm
much more
fucked up,
real.
you're fucked up, let's be fucked up together, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it shows where she's so twisted that she can't, and it has that lovely anticlimactic kind of ending that they did, where she ends up, they believed, using her final life. It turns out, after he kind of feels he's got this kind of emptiness, and he kind of drives off, you see her in the background, and it's in its sense, it's so dark, it's so twisted, and so beautiful. And I think it's one of those metaphors that Burton kind of, he elegantly puts it instead of shoehorns it in, if that makes sense.
I think it was done better in the movie we're going to talk about after this, the animated feature. I believe it was so much better done, but I get it. I really do. Like I said, I don't hate this movie. There are things about it that I don't like. It really is like I said, it very much has a style over substance feel to me in a sense. I get it. Like, it's just, I tell you what, it's one of those films that I understand why this one gets shown more over the first Batman. It really does have a lot going for it in terms of being more of a comic book movie. I do want to point out, though, before we move on, this movie was probably was very much controversial, and it was actually because of the controversy that we got Batman Forever. Was the movie was so dark that it actually caused controversy with merchandisers. Probably the biggest one was McDonald's, McDonald's had signed a deal for Happy Meal toys, and then the movie comes out. People start complaining, and there was a big battle between McDonald's and Warner Brothers because I guess they didn't see the movie before it came out, but they were not prepared for the backlash from how dark the movie was, and it caused a big controversy and pretty much scared Warner Brothers into not wanting to bring Burton back. But we'll get to that when we get to Forever, because this is the movie that I want to talk about more than anything else. I grew up watching this film. This was coming out at the time when the Batman animated series was really kicking off on all cylinders. I mean, it really was one of the cornerstones of the, at the time, Fox Kids channel. This was very much a cornerstone of their programming. This was before
series,
Yeah, this was before WB got the rights, when they did Kids WB and got the rights back for it. But they decided to capitalize on this with a movie. This was one of the first, I believe, it was going to be straight to video, and then they decided at the last minute, I believe, to give it a limited theatrical release, which is why I'm including it on here. But 1993's Batman Mask of the Phantasm, this movie really had everything. It was the best of why I love the Batman animated series. It has great performances. It has great animation. When you talk about Batman, people say that, who's your Batman? Michael Keaton, some people now Christian Bale. To me, it's Kevin Conroy. No one does Batman better than Kevin Conroy as Batman. Just the quintessential Batman, in my opinion.
In the tone, he has like both the tone of voice and the nice little bridge he has between Bruce Wayne and Batman. You can always say that sense of, he has that likable appeal as Bruce Wayne, and he goes really dark in terms of his Batman.
Yeah, he really does. He really does flip the switch. And speaking of voices and dark, I mean, I know people love Heath Ledger. I know we just talked about Jack Nicholson in the role. To me, Mark Hamill is the Joker. His Joker, the way they portray it, is amazing. Probably one of the more iconic roles that Hamill has done. I know a lot of people put Star Wars and Luke Skywalker up there. To me, that's Batman. I think his Joker is way more iconic than his role in Star Wars, but that's just me. But one of the reasons why I love this movie, and I've gone back to watch it, and it's the reason why I think it really resonated with me, is this was the first movie that I can think of that really, it really is a Bruce Wayne movie. This one really very much focuses on the Bruce Wayne character more than Batman, and it goes back to something that's always annoyed me about people's perception of Batman, is everybody thinks that Bruce Wayne is just a shell, that there's no substance to him, that, I remember Kevin Smith made a line, he was like, Bruce Wayne died when, his parents were killed in that were gunned down, and now he's basically just a cipher to the real world for Batman, and they characterize Batman as this, almost heartless sociopathic character who just doesn't kill people. You know, they very much don't give enough credit to the humanity of Bruce Wayne, and this movie really was the first to show that there was a human under that suit, that there really was a person there that was very flawed. Basically, if you've never seen Mask of the Phantasm, for those of you who are listening, it really much plays up the question of what if Bruce Wayne finally found his basically, oh, what's the word I can say? Basically found his peace. He meets this woman named Andrea Beaumont in the movie. They hit up a relationship, and he actually proposes and actually decides to marry this woman. And the scene that really made me realize just how beautiful the story in this movie is. And let me just throw it out there. How many of you guys have actually seen this movie, real quick?
I have, yeah. It's
I have as well.
It's so torturous in its way.
Let me get to the scene because I really want to get to this. Do you remember the scene in the cemetery where it's raining and he's pleading to his parents?
Yeah.
There's a scene in the movie where I think he had just proposed to Andrea, and he's at the cemetery and it's raining, and he's basically pleading to his parents, you know, their mausoleum, that he wants to quit. He's like, listen, I found this woman. I want to know that I can spend the rest of my life with her. I know I promised you guys and made this whole thing, but, you know, I could donate more money to the police department. I can, you know, help them out as much as I can. And he ends it by getting onto his knees and he says, please, I just want to know that it's okay. And that, to me, is probably the most vulnerable I've ever seen Bruce Wayne ever portrayed. That really shows to me that there's a human under there. And it really, I don't want to spoil the ending, but you talk about torturous endings. The way that movie ends, and you find out how this character, the Andrea Beaumont character, plays into the overarching story with him and the Joker, the way that movie ends is so heartbreaking and so fitting for the story of Batman. It's probably the best told story I've seen. I haven't seen much of the latter animated features. I stopped watching them after Batman Beyond Return of the Joker, but I would put this in the top 3. I think this is the best Batman animated featurette I've ever seen, and that's just me. I can't geek out about this movie enough. Burhan, what'd you think of the movie?
Everything that you've touched upon, it shows how Bruce Wayne himself, and I think Conroy does such an amazing job. It gives him more substance, in a sense, that he's trying to do what's right, but in the end he's also giving what he wants to give up being Batman for love, you know, for the one person he wants to be with, the one person he wants to give everything to, and he can't do that because his duties keep getting in the way, you know. And it's so dramatic in a sense, and it's so twisted, but it shows that kind of side of each and every one of us, like how people are so driven, and how when you find that one person that you want to spend the rest of your life with, there's nothing that you wouldn't do to be with them, and it's so tragic at the same time. Great movie. Conroy's amazing, and again, Bruce Timm does an amazing job directing it.
Yeah, it's a dark movie. I mean, if you're used to the darkness of the series, this one ups the ante a little bit more. It's not as off-putting as Returns, but it definitely, you can tell that they were like, all right, we're going to be on the big screen. We're not going to be on TV. We can push the boundary a little bit more. I mean, it's not over the top, but it very much has a lot more meat and grit to it than you would see from a standard episode of Batman the Animated Series. Anina, you've seen the movie as well. What'd you think about it?
It's been a long time since I've seen it, but I do. I have seen it, and that and the whole animated series is probably one of the best animated series probably ever done, because it was so sophisticated. And you know, I watched this as a young kid, and then when you're older and you rewatch it, you see all the nuances and the emotional sort of development that was in it that you don't actually notice when you're a kid, because you're not prepared for it. You're just entertained by what happens and the characters. The beauty of this series is because different ages will watch it and get different things out of it, and I love the darkness of it. Like, I think this is in my head towards the sort of 90s goth. It's in that era of filmmaking or making series, people really delved into sort of the emotional side of sort of dark gothic things. And that's what I love about it. It's just not, it's just not superheroes or supervillains for the sake of having them there. There's a theme, or there's an issue we're actually, battling with and asking questions. Like this whole thing with Batman, is it time to just stop being Batman? And I think that's the only, from what I know, the only superhero to sort of even contemplate stopping being what he is. And that's a massive thing.
And here's the thing, though, and it's... People talk about, people gave Spider-Man flack in the second movie for, wanting to give up being Spider-Man. Here's the difference. It was well done in Mask of the Phantasm because you really did felt like this was a tortured soul. Like, this was a guy who went through so much and is really just, he's trying... He does not want to do this. He wants to continue to do what he does, but at the end of the day, he's human. He is a human being. Yeah. He has needs just like everybody else. And you could tell the way it was portrayed that he was really fighting with himself. It was really an internal battle. With Spider-Man, it was just, life's hard. I'm going to just give up being a superhero. Like, it just came off as so whiny and douchey when it was done in the movies as opposed to when it was done in this movie. Because, like I said, you can tell it very much was a conflict for him. And like I said, it goes back to the whole perception that people have of Batman and that he's just this hardened sociopath and there's really very little humanity, that he is just as straight-laced. He's almost become the parody that Rorschach was in Watchmen. Rorschach was basically a parody of what Batman was becoming, and Batman in the minds of people has kind of become that. And that's why I do love Batman Mask of the Phantasm, and I think it plays so well today more than it did then. Was it really is a perception of Batman that we need more so of. There needs to be more humanity with that, because Batman, there is a good person under there. It's just, horrible writers like Frank Miller today, at least, have kind of tainted Batman. We need a Batman that is more human. I think that's the whole crux of Batman. And I'm really trying to stall, because I know Dave desperately wants to get in to say something, but for some reason it keeps not letting him.
Well, this is the whole hero versus anti-hero. Let's say Spider-Man's a hero, Batman's an anti-hero. And I'll always find anti-heroes much more interesting.
Yeah, but the thing is, as well, it's like with Spider-Man, he has a choice. He can walk away. I think with Batman, he can't. He
can't, yeah.
It's
and
like
that's
a
much
drug.
more interesting.
Yeah. It's like a drug in terms of the way they are, but it does show that whole fight of morality between him and kind of the character itself. In he has these two sets of realities, because they, as Burton pointed out, Batman and Bruce are basically the same thing. Bruce is kind of the mask that Batman wears. With this, it kind of has a fight between those, and that both those characters are a truth. Both of these are different parts of his life. Bruce Wayne is kind of the flamboyant, the philanthropy side of Batman, and then you have Batman who's the guy who tries to do everything, and fight crime.
Bruce Wayne is the lesser of the two.
Yeah, and Bruce Wayne wants happiness.
Sorry,
Batman's
people, I'm back.
away.
That wasn't British Telecom failing. That was the fact that you sneaky, stealthy wankers, Windows, with your updates that you don't tell me, and then you just go boop and fuck off. And it's happening because your computer slowly closes down. And the first thing I thought when I got kicked out of that call was just, oh, it's fucking Windows updates, isn't it? You bastards.
Yeah.
I fucking hope you burn in the fiery pits of Hades. Because I'm Batman.
Well,
Actually, no, that's not true.
I'm glad we got.
Chuck
I'm glad we
Weaselberger.
got you back. I'm glad we got you back because I know that you really wanted to geek out about Mask of the Phantasm as much as I did. So, go ahead. You've got the floor, man.
Oh, we on the
What
Master
is your
of
thoughts on
Phantasm?
Mask of the Phantasm? Yeah.
Fucking amazing movie, and easily it's the wrong way to depict or talk about an opinion upon this movie by comparing it to the live action movies, but I will. This is one of my favorite and most solid Batman movies. Everything about it, and it borrows heavily from Year One. And right, they don't call him that, but the Reaper bloke in it is basically the guy from Year One, isn't he? And even the start of it, with like the flashbacks and the creepy, abandoned World Expo show and stuff like that. This movie is absolutely fantastic. And by the way, people, you can buy this in Asda right now for £1.50. Pick it
Blu-ray or
up,
DVD?
because if you don't, regular DVD.
Oh, that's a
Is
shame.
there a Blu-ray version of this?
There is.
No. Is there?
Yep.
I didn't see one listed online.
£1.50 for a movie of this solid quality.
I saw one
it's
on
not
Amazon.
to sniff your nose up at. I love it. I love everything about it. It's dripping in atmosphere. It's got they nicked the score. It's got the score, the Elfman score from the original movies. It feels like it's gonna say I can't explain how much I love this movie. I can't explain why it gives me a Woody, which is it's got this 50s feel to the animation, but it's solid animation and it's very character driven. And it was, people forget this one direct to video or anything like that. This was a cinematic release, and the cover art is absolutely amazing. This is such a solid and strong Batman movie that character driven, strong plot elements. I'm not going to give any more away in the out because you haven't seen it. Sort your life out, go and see it. So I'm not going to ruin it, but it's just, and compared to the other movies, even though Batman got the shit kicked out of him, he's very, very vulnerable in this movie.
Yeah,
it's the one thing I took from it, which they intended from the story, but he's very vulnerable. It's just, I'm jabbering because I love this movie so much, and I'm hoping that my computer or British Telecom doesn't kick me out. But yeah, it is basically. Oh, can I go on record when I say this?
Go ahead.
And I consider it in the same ilk as the Burton movies, but this is possibly my favorite Batman movie.
No, you just love all the Batmans.
Bold words, I know. But
no, I
everything
completely
about
understand. In
it's
fact,
great. And it feels very adult as well. It's got, I don't know what it has in the States, but in this country it actually had a PG rating, which is quite rare for a cartoon movie. But some of the stuff they touch upon in the vulnerability of Batman and how he gets beaten up and shit, and the Reaper guy and stuff like that. It's not, well, it is, but at least to me, it doesn't feel completely like a kids movie. I think there's very sort of levels of adult content in this, and I don't mean 50 Shades of wank. I mean the conversation. Some of the conversations between the characters are so well driven, so well written, so well voice acted that at least to me, you get lost in it. You just think this is a brilliant movie. It's very well acted. I don't think this is a kids movie, even though it's primarily marketed at them. I'm jabbering now because I love this movie, but hopefully that makes sense. This is a completely perfect. Here you go, Miguel. I'll say this. This is a completely perfect. There is nothing wrong with this movie. Period.
Yeah, I definitely and the one, if there's one person in terms of films and stuff that I'll give credit to, it's Gene Siskel, because he actually is the reason why most people have even heard of this movie, because Warner Brothers did no promotion for this movie's theatrical release. But when they profiled this movie on
they were in
Siskel
DC
and Ebert,
Comics, though. I have DC Comics from back in the day that actually have one-page spread of this movie. But saying what you said,
preaching to the
that's
that's
pretty
preaching
much
to the choir.
The only thing I've ever seen of the promotion for this movie.
Yeah, this
And
movie
it actually
did.
came out,
This movie.
true story, it actually came out in the cinema in this country, and it absolutely tanked because
Yeah.
no one knew what the fuck it was. Even though Batman's big, no one knew what the fuck it was.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say is Warner Brothers did no promotion for this movie, and the only reason people have even heard of it was I remember Gene Siskel, when he was doing his reviews, actually went out of his way to promote this movie. He was like, you got to go see this movie. This movie is top notch. It's a great animated feature. He's the reason why most people have talked about it, because he made sure to let people know about it on his series, Siskel and Ebert. So I give credit to Siskel for really showing people this movie that probably would not have gone to have seen it. Now, the movie did break even on a $5 million budget.
I was just going to say, I was going to ask you, what was its return?
$5 million budget. It made $6 million at the box office worldwide. So, given that they spent like zero money on the ads, I'm assuming they at least broke even. So it wasn't a complete
But it
loss.
makes you wonder if they actually bothered to promote it and spent money on it, bearing in mind how big a franchise Batman is, and bearing in mind that it's clearly related or, inspired by not just the original TV show, because that's inspired by Tim Burton. If they bothered to promote this movie, I think it would have done so much better. It would have been a hit.
Probably,
it's a wasted gem,
like
is what I'm trying to say. It's a wasted gem.
They obviously saw it as a risk because it has the mature element. So maybe they just didn't want to risk it because of that.
Yeah, but that's what I don't understand, which is they consider it a risk, but I'm not having a pop at you, I'm having a pop at them, by the way, Anna. But there's so much love and attention in this movie, which frustrates me about it, which is, why would you commit yourself and do such a perfect movie and just then walk away from it and leave it languishing in,
I agree, but I agree completely, because my day job's in a cinema, and the things that get promoted the most are things like Need for Speed, and you're just like, come on.
Popcorn.
And then there's there's some fantastic, perfect indie films that you have to find out about them to be able to see them, and they get 1 week at the cinema, and that's it.
Blatant plug, people, go and watch Rushmore.
By the time you want to see something, it's not in cinemas anymore, because if it's indie, 1 week. That's not enough time for anyone to see anything, and it makes me really sad. Really, really sad.
Well, yeah, you're absolutely right. It makes me really sad, because it's like, no one's going to watch this. It's going to be the people who eat lentils and don't eat meat and shit like this, and it's like, why are you typecasting specific movies? And that's what really frustrates me with this, because it's not an indie movie. There's nothing wrong with indie movies. I love indie movies, but it's a completely polished, brilliant, wonderful movie that's got a storyline that you cannot poke holes in at all. There's very few movies that Cynical Dave can't rip apart, and I cannot rip apart this movie. And it's like, Warner Brothers, you made this amazing movie, and then you just went, yeah, there you go, piss off to the side, and then you piss and moan about your return on it, when if you promoted this, I think they should have promoted this as the at the time, the third Batman movie. It just said, have you ever seen Batman in animated form? Because it's very Burton. The point I'm trying to make, Miguel, is very, very Burton, this movie.
Yeah, I think
I
the movie itself...
I think the script would have been perfect for a movie.
Yeah.
I agree. I don't know if they should have done this exact movie, but taking the script and applying it to live action probably would have given us a better sequel than what we got, which we'll get into in a second.
Plus, it really fleshes out the relationship between Bruce Wayne and Batman. Mm-hmm. With the whole start of the movie.
Yeah, it's a Bruce Wayne movie. We mentioned that before while you were gone. But Burhan, you were going to say something before we head out. Move on.
Yeah, it's basically as I said, it was a perfect segue for the animated series in a sense. It just did everything that it set out to do. The story was beautiful, beautifully written. You had an amazing team on there as well, and the basically everything from the atmosphere to the character to the the well-made script,
and plus
the direction.
People forget that the animation was upped. You know, it wasn't like a TV, cartoon. The animation in this movie is absolutely superb.
Yeah, that's the budget. You could tell that the budget went on the movie, and it went on the movie alone, and it was amazing, simply sublime, in my opinion.
People out there, if you're listening, you really need to do yourself a solid. And as I said, you can buy it from Asda really cheap. This is, in my opinion, the greatest Batman movie. Don't take that out of context in the sense like, well, it's animated, it's this, it doesn't combine with this universe. No, this is the greatest Batman movie.
No, I disagree. It's not the greatest Batman movie, it's the greatest Bruce Wayne movie.
No, good point. Yeah, no, I'll give you that.
Because it basically
but you know what
highlights,
I'm saying, which is...
It does the other side of the coin, and rarely do we ever see a superhero movie...
It's the most complete Bruce Wayne Batman movie.
It tells the side of the different character, the different person, and it really works, and it really helps tell that story.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, I haven't seen any of the animated movies past Batman Beyond Return of the Joker, so I can't really compare it to those. But in the ones I've seen, the first three movies, that being Sub-Zero, this one, and Return of the Joker, I'd probably put this at the top.
Yeah, and you know what? It stands head and shoulders above a lot of the DC animated films that are currently in development.
Which is big canon right now. They're making a lot of money out of their independent... When I say independent, independent from the storylines of the comics, they're making a lot of money out of their Superman and Batman movies now, but none of them hold a fart to this.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with Dave wholeheartedly.
So let's move on to the final film for part one of our retrospective. Let's move into 1995. By this point, Warner Brothers was not willing to work with Burton anymore. They did not want to deal with the controversy of people,
Disagree on that one, Miguel. It's not that they weren't willing. They asked him to tone it down. He refused. And then he decided to step aside on the project.
So yeah, he stepped aside. He was basically producer for this next film, and the studios went with Joel Schumacher.
Yes.
And I don't hate this movie. People can laugh at me. I do not hate this movie.
Yeah, from that we got Batman Forever, which, like Dave said, I don't think is a terrible movie. I think there are good things about it. There's a lot of bad to it. I think when you compare it to the overly dark Batman Returns and the overly campy Batman and Robin, I think this is the perfect middle ground between them. I think it really does balance out both movies.
Plus, the U2 song was absolutely amazing, as is the video for that.
I like that, but I like Kiss for a Rose better, in my opinion.
Mephisto against Batman.
To be honest, the soundtrack to this film is brilliant.
Oh yeah, they really went out of their way. Like this was, that's a good and a bad thing, but we'll get into that when we get to Batman and Robin, which is, that really...
I might sit that one out simply because I don't want to vomit all over my computer.
Yeah, but to me, the biggest problem that I have with this movie that really keeps it from being a pretty solid Batman movie is the choice of Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face. I think he ruins the movie for me.
Yeah.
I can stand to watch everything else about this movie except his portrayal of Two-Face. His portrayal of Two-Face is awful.
He portrays him like Joker.
Yes,
he portrays him as a laughing fool, where he should be a completely tormented person who's completely balanced on one side, and which I guess they tried it.
Do you know who originally they had?
He just jumps to the other side and was like, "Oh, I'm fucking mental."
Do you remember who originally that they had in for the role of Harvey Dent?
Billy D. Williams. He was supposed to return. But they didn't want to continue.
They paid him
Schumacher
out.
Didn't
they
want
actually
him
bought him out of his contract.
Because it said in his contract that he had to. He only signed on because he wanted to play Two-Face. When they decided to go with Jones, they actually had to pay out Billy D. Williams.
Yeah, which is fine. He got paid either way. But it does annoy me, and I agree with you. This is one of the worst ways to do a Batman movie, and I can explain why. The focus of the movie, the main antagonist of this movie, is Jim Carrey's The Riddler.
Yeah.
Perfectly done, beautifully done, amazingly done. You could tell that Carrey worked hard on the role. He understood the character. He knew who Edward Nygma was. Then you had Tommy Lee Jones, whose
I'm a laughing fool and buffoon.
The main reason for playing Two-Face was my grandkids wanted to see me in a comic book movie. This is what he said. And I watched him, and Dave is right. It's like he's taking the Joker and playing the Joker and trying to make that Two-Faced.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, didn't he outright say it?
My thought
Didn't he
with
outright
him
say
playing this was he just basically looked at the Jack Nicholson movie because he's done no research whatsoever and just going, I'm going to play it as the laughing psychotic fool.
What
He's
you
like,
saying,
no,
Miguel?
that's not his character.
What Dave just said, it's exactly that. He went on record and said he had no idea who Two-Face was, so he just played it like the Joker. He outright admitted that he did no research in the role.
Yeah.
And that's why we got that version
But
of
that's
Two-Face.
the thing. If he was like kind of a MacGuffin in a sense. If you removed him and added something else in there, it would have just been the same effect. You know, you could add a cabbage in Two-Face's role, and it would basically. I'm going to do that one day. I'm just going to remove him.
One
and
side rots, the other one doesn't.
Exactly. It's just like have a cabbage playing Two-Face.
Make sure you decay one side of them properly, so you have that.
Yeah, it's just like the
Straight down the middle.
The half-burnt cabbage. But you could tell that he has no use. There is no point of him being there apart from the fact that he killed Robin's parents. That's it.
Yeah.
That's his
It
usefulness.
was an afterthought. Even though that's established in comics and shit or whatever, but he was purely, his backstory in this movie was just like cough afterthought. There you go crazy.
Yeah, Dent's an insane psychopath, and the reason why he's insane is because he had this morality about him. He was played so much better in The Dark Knight Returns. You know, he's just done
Definitely.
so much better. This variation of Two-Face bugged the fucking hell out of me. But I still felt that Kilmer played a very well-rounded Bruce Wayne and Batman.
Oh, no, I agree with you. I think Kilmer was a brilliant Batman, but his script and direction let him down. And I think I talked to you about this before, Miguel and Burhan. When there is, and I hope we get like the petition online to get it back, like the Richard Donner Superman 2, but there is an R-rated version of this movie that's like 25 minutes shorter.
Actually, no, it's the opposite. There is a cut of this film that's actually a half hour longer. I don't know if it's R-rated, but yeah, there's a version of this that's actually 30 minutes longer, and yeah, it's never been released. They've shown at least half of that footage on the DVDs.
If you buy the DVDs, they're in the special features. But I would kill. I mean, it's not the greatest Batman movie, but I don't hate it. But I would kill for that version or vision of this movie because I don't hate it. It's got massive faults. There's no denying it. But at the same time, I would kill to see the version that was originally intended. That then Warner Brothers shut their pants and just went, "We don't want fucking Batman Returns again."
Yeah, the version that they want, the version supposedly that Schumacher wanted was much darker. Originally, Schumacher wanted to actually adapt Frank Miller's Year One story, but the studio said, no, we just want a sequel, so they did the version that we got. But yeah, there's a version out there, and that's one of the reasons why I can't completely dump on this movie, because we've never seen the director's full vision. We don't know what he wanted to do with it. That's why I don't hate Schumacher. I don't go after him when it comes to Batman Forever. And as we'll talk about next week, I don't go after him for Batman Returns either, but we'll get into that.
I will for that one, but not this one.
Well, no, this one I felt was... It distanced itself a little bit, but it had a nice balance to it of kiddie versus action, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
See, I think that's its weakness, is being kiddie action. That's what makes it really weak.
It's kind of one of those things I kind of wish that they did what they do with movies now, where they have an R-rated cut that they release after the fact.
We get the proper one on Blu-ray afterwards.
Yeah, and in the cinema you get the PG crap. You know, yeah, exactly. I agree with you, Patimus. She goes, "Why is Dent even in the film? More bang for the buck. Need more than one villain." I think probably that. It was kind
Isn't
of to give...
bloke at the start who's in the
It's kind of gives Chris
safe
O'Donnell's
when it's filling
Robin
up with acid.
It gives
Newman
Chris O'Donnell.
from Seinfeld.
Well, they explain it, but they never go into detail about it. It gives Chris O'Donnell's Robin kind of his own villain to go against, which you don't really need it. You know, he becomes a lackey to the Riddler at some point, and it doesn't work.
I just discovered the Batcave by doing 3 flips and a slide.
Yeah, Kiss from
Like,
the Rose
wow.
is one of my absolute favourites too, Pat MS. I agree with you on that one. But the thing is, I agree as well with what you're saying, Anina, but I think it had that balance, and only if they had the kind of an R-rated version that they could release on DVD or video or whatever the fuck they had at that time, it would have made things a lot better, and people wouldn't have been as sour on it. But overall, it's not the worst Batman movie. It has a nice balance to it, and it kind of segues and complements the others very nicely.
This one on a budget. Okay, I was. Let me just answer this real. Yeah, I just want to do this real quick. Answer Dave's question. $100 million budget, made back $336 million.
So
this
it's
was
a
hit.
success. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Go ahead, Anina. You go.
No, when I think of this film, the only thing I can think I've really enjoyed about it is Riddler. That's it. And to me, that's just not enough. I didn't. Sorry, Val Kilmer. I've liked you. I loved you as the Saint, but in this, just doesn't do it for me. And Chris O'Donnell doesn't do it for me either. It just doesn't. It's not bad, but it just doesn't work. I don't think there's enough like chemistry there, even.
Unless you're a
It's just. I just watched it for Jim Carrey. Like literally, I would speed through.
Where'd you stand on me saying this? Hold me, throw me, kiss me, kill me.
Great song. Let's do karaoke. That's
Pat
about
is
it.
on my side there, Dave. She loved "Kiss from the Rose" as well.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. If we're talking about a song from Batman Forever, I gotta go with "Kiss from a Rose." I love that song.
No,
I love them both,
Hold me,
but
throw me, kiss me, kill me.
I
Because
have
the
it on my
video,
iPod.
people out there, if you've never seen the video for "Hold Me, Throw Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me," check it out. You basically
Which
got
actually-
Bonner. It's Mephisto.
why not have both
fighting
songs?
Batman.
Both songs are great. Both songs are great.
Yeah. And I do want to say this about the YouTube video. That actually does have a clip from the deleted version of Batman Forever. The opening scene with him in Arkham Asylum, where they discover Two-Face, was in the original version, but they never used it, so they let U2 use it for the video. So yeah, if you've seen that video, you've seen part of the cut version of Batman.
Two things I would like to say about that movie, because I don't hate it. I would love to see, the proper cut. That one thing I love and one thing I hate. One thing I love is the fight in the mansion when he's Bruce Wayne is brilliant. When they torch the mansion, I really, really enjoyed that scene. I thought it was fantastic. One thing I fucking hate is the fact that when he sticks on his new fucking silverback costume at the end, we get that gratuitous buttock shot. What the fuck was that about? Why do I need to
It's
see
For the
that man's
ladies.
ass?
That's for the ladies.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't for the ladies.
That was for the lads.
That was for one lad, and that was for Joel Schumacher.
Yeah.
Schumacher. It's no surprise. Schumacher's gay. We all know this. He's
Is he?
been out of the closet for years.
I
Yes.
thought he was a man's man.
No, he's gay, and that's.
I have no problem with whatever your lifestyle choice is, because be you, live your life, and do what you want to do.
The
People
problem
hate
is
it.
when your lifestyle
Tell
choice
the fuck
gets
off.
in.
Don't give me a gratuitous Batman ass shot.
No, it's when your
That's not
lifestyle
what-
If it was a
gets in the
woman,
way.
if it was Uma Thurman, you would not be moaning, would you?
Actually,
With
you
a
know what?
gratuitous
No,
arse
no,
shot.
hang on. Because if it was out of place with the character, I would.
All I'm saying is, when
Oh.
your lifestyle choice gets in the way of a George Clooney
Because I want to see the
helmed-
front. Sorry.
Well, it's when your
Bad joke.
your lifestyle choice gets in the way of a George Clooney helmed Batman movie. That's when things get a bit too stupid.
Plus, it's
Yeah,
got
yeah,
that full line at the end, which is "Holy rusted metal, Batman," and he's like, "What?"
But one
Like, the
question,
hogs,
guys.
they're
Would you guys actually sit down? Oh, I want to watch something. I want to be entertained. Would you pick out this film?
No, and
To
I'll
what?
tell you why.
Exactly.
And
I
Patmos
would
hits,
neither.
actually.
Patmos
I
hits the
would.
nail on the head.
And I own
this is
it.
why the female lead in this movie, who's Kidman, sucks.
Oh
Yes.
yeah, I'll give you that. Especially when the really cheesy joke when Batman goes, "It's the car."
Chick stick the
Chick stick the
car.
car.
Yeah, it's like
Oh Christ! You're like, fuck. What am I for?
but it's like Nicole Kidman's. Like you had Vicky Vale, for instance, played by Kim Basinger, an amazing character, in a sense.
Oh, we didn't
of,
touch upon this. Kim Basinger is actually, even though she's like the heroine or whatever, like the victim, I should say, sorry, in the first movie. Her acting performance is solid and wonderful.
and she
In this
understands
movie,
her role.
yeah.
She understands her
Oh yeah, and she
character.
understood the subject matter of
Yeah.
Batman. In this movie, Kidman's just like, I am here taking a paycheck. Oh,
Yeah,
you're
and-
Batman. I like the fact that there are nipples on your plastic costume. And it's like, fuck off, Kidman. Seriously, do some fucking homework.
I wonder if that was a choice of the producers and the writers of
Yeah.
that. I'm not going to blame Kidman or the director. I think that was a matter
The
of
fact that she did
they-
right, I agree with you, but it's the fact
Okay.
that she turns the bat signal on it and summons Batman, and she stood there in a nightie.
Well, there's
Like-
yeah,
a
that
thing
that
like
to me
To
pretty
me,
much
that-
summed up what to expect from
Yeah.
this character.
yeah, and also it's what Patmos highlights. She's supposed to be a brilliant psychiatric doctor and anthropologist. She's just a 2D love interest who does nothing, and that's the truth.
Yeah.
Like the other two Helmed movies, the love interest had substance. She didn't, and it's
Yeah.
the same thing that I think that she had, like Tommy Lee Jones had, which was
I'm
they
here
didn't
for
research.
a paycheck.
Yeah, they didn't research their roles. They just thought, "Oh, I'm in a Batman movie," and I think Schumacher kind of had the idea of the love interest being like something out of James Bond, which is kind of where it killed it in a sense.
Yeah.
But with all that, as I said, with all that's wrong with this movie, it still had some great chemistry between Kilmer and
Kilmer was
who
a good
played-
Batman. I
yeah,
don't
who
care what
played
anyone says.
Robin,
Kilmer
Chris
was a good
O'Donnell.
I
Batman.
don't think so.
I agree with Miguel.
Kilman had
I-
He's a great The Saint. I love The Saint, the film. In that he's
had
great.
a
When
good-
this,
he had a
nah.
good
I've never
Bruce
seen that. I
Wayne.
should get around to watching it.
He had a good
Oh, it's
Bruce
great.
Wayne, but his Batman kind of sucked.
I completely agree. And honestly, I wasn't too blown away from his Bruce Wayne either. I felt it didn't have as
I
much.
like this Bruce Wayne
didn't-
based on the mansion
he-
fight.
No, I didn't. I
Alright,
didn't.
the
I
fucking
think,
flying bats you got every minute he delved into his own brain were kind of a little bit annoying, which is
Yeah.
basically trying to say like, I'm Bruce Wayne, I'm tormented. That got on my tits, but I thought he was reasonable.
it's-
I won't say brilliant.
it's worse
I thought
in
he was
the
a
director's
reasonable-
cut.
Really? What? It's just bad. It's just a movie that's 2.5 hours long of bats.
No. In the director's cut, that scene with the flying bat actually manifests itself to where Bruce Wayne actually confronts a giant humanoid bat. It's basically he confronts Man Bat in his.
Okay, I changed my
site.
mind. This movie shit.
Yeah, the clip is actually online. Go look up Batman Forever Man Bat. The clip is actually out there. It's like a dream sequence he has. But in terms of Val Kilmer's Batman, I felt that there wasn't.
It wasn't gruff.
I didn't
enough.
hate it either. There wasn't enough distance between the two characters. The two
Yeah.
characters kind of blended too well together for my taste.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
and you know, in terms of O'Donnell's character as Robin, it kind of did the same thing.
Oh, I fucking hated him in this movie.
Would you have hated him if it was played by a different actor? Because do you guys know who was almost up for that role and got beat out by Chris O'Donnell?
Are you really going to make me upset right now? You're going to make me upset.
No. I love this one. I do love this one.
Yeah,
I know who it is.
I'm gonna say it, Burhan. I want to say it.
Go on.
Marlon Wayans was up for the role as Robin and was turned down because I don't know who thought turning him down, but yeah, he lost out the role to Chris O'Donnell, but he was who the studio originally wanted to play that role.
I could have done that.
Because he's actually
got
I would have laughed.
character and personality.
I would have laughed if he just he's running, she's running. Run, bitch! Run for your life!
Yeah, but I could have done with that because he's got personality, screen quality. I'm not having a pop at Chris O'Donnell. I've not seen anything of his NCIS shit he's done since. But in this movie, it's just like he's so fucking cardboard and shit. He just pops up. And you almost feel like Batman should turn left to him and prod him with his finger and just go, "Oh, by the way, you do know your boy Wonder. You seem to keep forgetting." He's so fucking wooden. And that whole sequence when he discovers the Batcave is so cringeworthy. I'm like, hang on a minute. All right, I'm not an athlete or an acrobat, but this is, and it's not his fault entirely, it's the writing, but like, I'm pretty sure if I just waited for the door to open, had a brain with where Alfred was, or, the door was time of day, I could discover it. You're not a maverick. You're not intelligent. Why are you Boy Wonder? You're a fucking idiot. Sorry. Oh, where did that come from? And
Yeah,
the
and it's
holy
unfortunate.
rusted metal was shit at the end line. I know they were throwing a throwback
No,
to
I love
the
that.
Batman.
Holy rusted metal,
Oh, that was
Badhead.
bollocks.
That metal, it's rusted and holy. I love that. I love the
Well,
fact
why
that
would
they
you
paid.
say that? That's like saying, "Holy shit, I'm standing on gravel."
No, but he
Yes,
paid
you are,
homage
Boy
to the
Wonder.
old TV
it's called
series,
my
which is
driveway.
you could tell that he was a fan of the old TV series. That's why Schumacher kind of took most of his referencing from.
Well, we'll
He
save
liked-
it for the next retrospective, but my god, I have a problem with him in this movie. Wait till the next
Well,
one, kids.
last thing I want to mention before we wrap things up is the casting, because I mentioned Marlon Wayans as Robin. They had to obviously recast for Batman because Michael Keaton didn't want to come back,
No,
and
but
ended up
originally. Sorry, I'm gonna do the whole thing. It's the same. It's a similar thing. What happened with Tobey Maguire on the set of Spider-Man? He came on set. He got his costume. He was suited up. They were like measuring him and stuff. And he goes, "Where's Burton?" And they went, "Oh yeah, he's not going to be in it anymore. He's retaining as a producer." He's like, "Oh, so Burton's not directing? No. See you later." And he just left.
Yeah, this was on a TV interview on BBC Breakfast a couple of weeks ago when they were talking about Birdman, and that's exactly what I heard, which was they were like, "So you didn't want to be in the third Batman movie?" And he goes, No, I showed up, and I was there for like being dressed and shit like that, and I said, "Where's Tim?" And he said, "Oh, he's not on this one." And he just literally went, like you said, Bahan, and I credit to him for this. He just went, "Well, fuck this. I'm out of Dodge." And he left.
Yeah. And
Can you imagine what that movie would have been like, though, if it was
I think he would have done
Ooh.
really well, especially if he was in it. But I think he had a sense of loyalty to
But it
Tim
wouldn't have been
Burton.
dressed up in this kind of, more light-hearted, phrase. Can you let me rephrase that. Can you imagine what that movie would have been like if Tim Burton directed it and Keaton was in it?
The thing is, I think they would have gone darker. I think one, you would have had Billy D. Williams as the Two-Face. I don't think he would have had the Riddler in this one. I think it would have just been one character. It would have one center point.
He was great, this, by the way, Jim Carrey. He was great.
Yeah.
Hey,
the
who
thing
wants
is-
to know a good backstage story?
No,
Jim
come
Carrey.
on.
Jim Carrey accidentally scratched Val Kilmer's AC Cobra. And you know what Val Kilmer did?
What?
He punched him in the face and knocked him out.
Yeah, Jim Carrey took a lot of flack on this set, mostly not only from Val Kilmer, but from Tommy Lee Jones. In fact, a lot of people say that's the reason why Carrey stopped doing comedy in the late 90s and the early 2000s was because of a lot of the
Jim
flack he was
Carrey
taking.
outshines Tommy Lee Jones in this movie.
Dave, let him finish. Dave, let him finish
Sorry.
the sentence.
Yeah, supposedly Jones gave a lot of flack to Jim Carrey, saying how he's just, a clown and doesn't know how to act and whatnot. And like I said, it led to a long period in the late 90s where I don't think Jim Carrey did any comedic roles. He did Truman Show, Man on the Moon, The Grinch, I guess you can say, although that I have problems with that movie. But
Let's not
yeah,
talk
it was
about
because of the drumming that Jones gave Jim Carrey on the set of Batman Forever, basically, because he basically was like, "You are not an actor,"
Yeah, I remember.
which is
he was,
unfortunate.
but the funny thing about it was, Carrey did a far better job as an actor than Jones did, because it's so
Agreed.
funny how because I remember he was talking about this as well, and how Jones was like, I was a dick, I was a complete dick to Jim Carrey, and he's going on about the fact that Carrey's not really an actor, he doesn't know what he's doing, he's going to punch him in the face, he was threatening to hit him, it was ridiculous, and he was being a complete douchebag. Yet Tommy Lee Jones' role is seen as more comedic because he's laughing like a fucking hyena on Heat, where Carrey actually acted a lot more of his role, he researched it, he took more pride in what he was doing. So, Tommy Lee Jones, if you're out there, you kind of phoned it in there, mate. So who's more the actor? The guy who actually researched his role, because that's what they do. the guy who immersed himself in his character, again, that's what they do, and the guy who actually used stuff that's in the method. You know, you trained Strasberg, so you probably know exactly what they do. So I would say he's more of an actor than you on this movie.
And
Sorry.
also, you know, you raised a really good point, Ben, which is whether people like, love, respect, hate, or disagree with Kerry's performance of the Riddler. His performance was brilliant.
Yeah, his performance was the best thing of that movie.
Especially when he does that baseball, you know, chuck grenade into the Batmobile at the end. That's like comedy genius. Plus, when he's Edward Nigma, and he's tormented and he's like, you know, pissed off that Bruce Wayne won't, you know, return his contract. You're like, fuck you, Tommy Lee Jones. There's acting right there. There's
No, but
really
it's also
good acting right
he
there.
does so well, even at the end when his brain's fried, and he's like, "Do you want to know who Batman is?" It's like, "Who?
Yeah.
It's me!" and he's just sitting there laughing his head off.
You know what the really sad thing is? I would have bought them those TV sets.
Yeah. You want to know
Oh my
something
god,
funny though?
they predicted 3D TV, didn't they? Edward Nigma
Kinda.
predicted 3D TV.
I gotta get to this because this is something that's amazing. Do you know who was trying to lobby Warner Brothers to play the role of the Riddler? They obviously turned him down, and I'm so happy they did. But I bet you if I gave you guys 3 guesses, none of you would figure out without going to Wikipedia.
Edward Norton.
No, not Edward Norton.
Patrick Swayze.
Robin Williams.
Michael Jackson.
Oh,
Are you
Yeah, I
fucking
did
fuck's
hear
sake.
about that.
Yeah, it says it on
did hear
Wikipedia.
about it.
He tried to petition Warner Brothers to play the role of the Riddler, and they turned him down.
But he would have been on screen. Sorry, people. Allegedly, he would have been running away to find children. My bad. I apologize.
Yeah,
Although he
there
could
weren't
have
many.
done really good high pitched voice, which is. Do you know what I think, Batman? I think I'm gonna fuck you up. Hee hee. Sorry.
But yeah, going back to Batman and the recasting, there were actually a couple actors that were up for the role. Daniel Day-Lewis was up for the role of Batman in that movie.
Ooh.
That would have been weird.
Yeah, because I
He
don't
would've
think
been
he would have known.
Amazing.
I don't think he would have known how to play the role. The
Yeah,
thing is, I
that's
think,
how I feel.
yeah, Day-Lewis is more of a thespian. He's more of one of those actors who
He
can.
would have gone
yeah.
serious. He would have gone serious and very heavy and very.
Yeah, he would have been a good
Very
Batman
Shakespearean.
if they did Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns. I think he would have been amazing in that.
Brilliant, because he locked himself away in a room for 6 months to understand the character. He would have been brilliant.
Exactly.
Although he
I
would have
think
done a
that
good
would have worked.
Batman, he would have done a shit Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, I think he would have done an amazing job in something like that.
Sorry.
But in this, I think he would have been all wrong for it.
Yeah. He needs
There
to
would've-
have
there was-
like the most serious Batman film that's ever been made. In that, he'd be great. Like if it has
There was
any
a-
hint of humor, no, it wouldn't work.
Yeah, there was also Ray Fiennes was up for the role as well. I could see Ray Fiennes
Really?
playing Batman.
I can see Ray Fiennes definitely doing it. Definitely.
I
He'd be
can.
really
Or as
good.
I like, or as I like to refer, as I like to refer to Ray Fiennes as not Liam Neeson. He's kind of one of those guys. You kind of, I think even Liam Neeson has said that people mistake them for each other.
Really?
My twin brother misquoted his
Never.
name once in a conversation we're having about movies.
that
And do you know
Ralph?
what my twin brother called Ray Fiennes? He called him Rape Fiennes. Yeah. Cheers for that, Ian. You just made him a serial rapist. Good for you.
But yeah, I could definitely see Ray
I
Fiennes.
couldn't. No. Well, if we're going to
Yes,
end this
I can
off right,
definitely see Ray Fiennes.
everyone pick the one actor out of the pool right now that you think should be Batman.
Dave, let Miguel finish.
Yeah, we've been on here for almost 2.5 hours. I kind of want to finish up. Another person that was up for the role was Billy Baldwin. I could see that. I mean, if you're familiar
no.
with Billy Baldwin as an actor, I could see him playing that role in
What else has he
'95.
been in? What else has Billy Baldwin been in? I can't picture his face at the moment.
He kind of looks like
What's his-
Alec Baldwin. He's basically Alec Baldwin's younger brother, I believe. Let me look at his filmography real quick. Let's see. Before that, not very much. He was in Flatliners, which I think is why Schumacher wanted him in there, because he was in there. He was in Backdraft. Uh, I remember him in Virus with Jamie Lee Curtis. Other than that, yeah, he mostly does straight to video stuff. He hasn't really done many movie based stuff. Although he did play the voice of Batman in the Justice League Crisis on Two Earths movie.
He did. Yep.
Yeah, that was Billy Baldwin.
But again, I didn't like it. I didn't like his Batman. I wasn't a fan of it, and the reason why, he had too much substance. He made it more human, which I don't think it worked. I think Batman, when Batman's Batman, he has this thing of being the detective, the untouchable in a sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas the human side is usually reserved for Bruce Wayne, and you didn't really see that.
The only time I've seen Batman really cross that threshold was at the end of the Flashpoint Paradox, the Flash movie, when Flash gives him that letter from the alternate universe. I could see that's yeah. And the last one, going back to what something Dave said, an actor that he suggested back in the Burton eras, Johnny Depp was actually up for the role of Batman for Batman Forever. I could see that by that point.
Johnny Depp.
I could see. Yeah.
You know what?
1995?
He's too boisterous.
He's not.
He'd be a better villain.
He's so pretty.
Yeah.
He'd be a better villain, because there was rumors that he was going to be Riddler, and I would like to have seen that. I would love to have seen Johnny Depp's version of the Riddler.
That's more in line with the kind of characters he plays, and he hasn't stopped playing for fucking ever.
Mm-hmm.
I think Anna's right, actually. He should be a villain, even though I would love to see him as Batman. He should be a villain because he can expose himself, not like
But
that,
it's not
but you
just
know what I
that.
mean.
He's not.
Because if he was Batman, we'll never get to see his lovely flowing locks and how purdy he is.
It's not just that. He's just he wouldn't fit. It doesn't suit him. You know, his role has to be with Depp. There's no character in Batman for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Batman is not a character. He's a very straight-laced person, and Depp cannot play. Depp is good at playing character actors. He's not good at playing acting. You know, it's kind of a weird thing with Johnny Depp, but I get what Burnham.
Flamboyant, basically. He's flamboyant.
Yeah. Then again, he did What's Eating Gilbert Grape, where there's
is
no
one of my
hint of
favorite movies. I love and
there's
adore
no character
that
in that
so much.
Me too. It's fantastic. Well, there's no character in that. That is just a normal.
It's one of the most depressing
guy.
movies you'll ever watch, people. But my God, it's worth a watch because it's just.
I guess thinking 95 era Johnny Depp, maybe. Like I said, I'm coming from the sense of modern day Johnny Depp, who has kind of pretty much out-Burtoned himself. But yeah, in terms of Batman Forever, like I said, it's not a perfect movie, but it's not a terrible movie. I would love to see the actual full version. Hopefully one day they'll do a remastering. I mean, there were plans when they did the Blu-ray release to do a special edition of that movie, but plans for some reason faltered, so they didn't really do anything but just, clean it up a bit. But yeah,
I think it's to do with Ty's licensing not quite up there with Jack Nicholson, but this is my understanding of my limited search on the interwebs, that Val Kilmer has a clause in his contract that he controls the footage that he's in.
And that's a sad part. Again, it's and again the reason why Kilmer didn't return was because apparently he was impossible to work with.
Oh, that reminds me. One of the
what I said, which is he scratched Jim Carrey scratched his car accidentally, and Val Kilmer took his head off.
Yeah.
That reminds me, before they actually did cast Kilmer, they did have one other actor signed on. He actually ended up turning down the role, and he says he regrets it further on in his career, and that's Ethan Hawke. Ethan Hawke was actually going to play the role, but like I said, he backed out, and then they signed Kilmer. But he said in interviews it's one of his biggest regrets as an actor was turning down the role of Batman.
He would have done an amazing job with the role, I think. I think he could still play him. It's just basically on the fact of the matter. It's a shame. It's a shame what happened, and it's a shame how with Kilmer, he was kind of going on the Val Kilmer tour of burning every fucking bridge in Hollywood.
Mhm.
And this was, and literally, this was how the way it happened. You know, they just Schumacher had it like extremely annoyed with him being on set. He couldn't deal with it. It got to the point where he was just that the Warner Brothers didn't want to use him again,
Yeah.
and it's a shame.
And speaking of Warner Brothers, they were so happy with the way this movie went, they felt they needed to control more aspects of it, which will lead us into our next film, but that will be for another episode, because next week we're going to be doing another news episode. We have to. I mean, given the news that dropped with
And I
Spider-Man, the
promise
Marvel
I will
Universe...
talk over everyone in the next week's episode. I do apologize.
Start now, because I'm still doing the introduction for next week's episode. Between the Marvel Spider-Man universe and the news coming out with the Ghostbusters reboot and the news about the recent flops in the cinema with, you know, Seventh Son and Jupiter Ascending, we've got a ton to talk about.
Yeah,
So next week, yes,
No offense with Jupiter Ascending, kind of saw it coming.
Yeah,
we did kind of see it coming.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's for next week, and then the week after we'll be continuing our talk of the Batman franchise with the second Schumacher film and the Nolanverse. So join us for that, guys. Before we head on out, Burhan, do you have any plugs?
Yep, go to nerdgenius.com. Just recently done a video on my channel, youtube.com/thenerdgenius. It's my review of Bayonetta, getting great reviews from everyone, saying it's actually one of my best reviews yet. So that's good. End of the week, hopefully be coming with my next Rather British review. I'm kind of piling 2 this week because I've been missing. I missed like a week due to personal reasons. And catch me on I Got Gameplay. Valentine's Day is Saturday, so I'm going to be going out for Valentine's Day. So I'm going to do a pre-tape, and I'm trying at the moment, if he accepts. I've got 2 people in mind for special guests. One is Missy Outbreak, and the other one's Steve Benway. I'm trying to push for Benway, so I'm hoping if I can have a word with him about it, get him on there, pre-tape the show, and then release it on that day, 8 p.m. EST on the Saturday, so that I can go on my my lovely what it's called, a Valentine's. It's Palentine's, a Palentine's Day, because I'm going on a friend date. So it's Palentine's.
I'm leaving the city to go see my parents for for the day before Valentine's Day. I work on Valentine's Day, so there. Anina, do you have any plugs?
Just follow me on Twitter and Facebook. I'm at Anina Kaski, ANNINAKASKI. And yeah, I've got things coming up, but nothing right now. But do follow my weird mix of gaming, acting, and everything rambles on Twitter. Yeah,
definitely follow
I can
her,
sell
guys.
myself well.
It takes a while. It takes a while for you to be able to plug yourself. And speaking of plugging oneself, Dave Wade, would you like to plug yourself?
I want to make a massive, massive, massive apology for talking over everyone in this live stream. I was just very excited to be back on one of my favorite streams. So
we understand, buddy. It takes a while to get kind of back into the flow of things, but hopefully next week with the news bits, it'll be a little bit more contained.
I'll shut up. I've already been torn out behind the scenes by Patty.
I will say this. Did Patty must yell at you, Dave? Is that why?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, she's in the chat.
And
she's
also,
sitting there going, Dave, stop
talking
talking over people.
Yeah. I'm sorry, people. It's like I love being on this show, Miguel.
Yeah, it's a great show. I'm happy.
I was excited to be back.
I'm happy for us to be back on Wednesday. So Miguel, take it away.
Hang on. Let me finish my
sorry, Dave. Go for it.
Yeah. Sorry. Anyway, apologies, and I talked over you. Oh my God, I just contradicted my apologies. You can find me as Longboys Post 1975 on YouTube, but you should check out my latest video because it's a good one, which is tell me what your 5 favorite crisps are, or chips for those you in North America. I can't believe anyone's actually watched that video, but they have. Wow. Anyway, and once again,
are you still doing your fast are you still doing your fast food episode of Burhan and the Boy that you pitched? I believe it was on I Got Gameplay.
It's gonna be, yeah, it's gonna be because I mentioned it in my video.
That's my weakness, Dave.
It's coming up, bitch, because I make so much good food. And when I say I make so much good food on my channel, basically I'm gonna die in about 5 years from cholesterol. But it's worth it.
Well, you can buy like a little portable enema kit, Dave. Just empty your bowels and then go for it.
If it's not the cholesterol that kills you, it's gonna be all the salt from all the Marmite.
I know. And the thing is, did you see my Marmite Easter egg?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not Easter. I ate it already.
But yeah, definitely check Dave Wade out on his YouTube channel, not on Facebook, because it's a matter of time, folks.
Yeah, it's coming.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's coming from me, all of us. There are people like Xander Scullion, for God's sake. Right, that sounds like a name, but apparently they don't think so.
I'm surprised they haven't ripped me down off Facebook then. What's this K? Too many K's in this name. Let's rip it out.
Yeah, I'm waiting for them to go. Michael Burhan isn't a name. So we shall
shit
see.
my pants because my name's Longboys Post, so I'm fucked.
So, yeah, that's us. Oh, guys, if you got any ideas for like movie files coming back next week, so if you've got any ideas for episodes, leave them in the comments section on this video, or leave them on my Facebook page at facebook.com/Michael Burhan. I'll be happy to watch your movies and talk in front of the camera and tell you what I think about them.
There you go, and you can catch us. You can catch this show for now on Wednesdays, every Wednesday night at 8 p.m.-ish on the Retro Unlim channel on YouTube. And you could follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/unmovieshow. I'll be posting this video up on there. We have our previous video, which was actually tweeted by Miss Anina Kasky, and I retweeted it, where we did our Zack Snyder retrospective. So check that out as well, twitter.com/unmovieshow. So for myself, for Michael Burhan, for Dave Wade, and for Nina Kasky, this has been the Untitled Movie Show. Take us out, Jay.
Celebrity voices are impersonated. No celebrities were harmed in the filming of this episode.
Excuse me, sir. The show's over.
Get away, zit face.
Oswald Cobblepot!